All right. Well, I'm pretty much going to start the pod from any point. But what I was thinking before was I listened to that Arnold Schwarzenegger podcast that you sent me.
Yeah.
And it was the second time I listened to it. So it was nice to listen to it again.
Yeah. With fresh eyes.
And it was like we were talking about this morning, like, who would have thought the Terminator would be like that interesting?
Bro, when I listened to I've listened to a couple, and the fact that he was like this guy from Germany or Austria or whatever, and then he's like, I'm going to be fucking Mr. Olympus. And then boom, he was. And then he was like, I'm going to be one of the famous movie stars in the world. Boom, he was. Like, I was just like, I'm going to be a fucking Austrian immigrant and come to America and become like a governor. Who, like, that's not allowed. Fucking yes, it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, insane what he can, like, just create a vision. Yeah, it's just so good.
That's what I love about podcasts, because everyone that I listen to, like Shaquille O'Neal. Like, to be honest, I bought this Shaquille O'Neal singlet.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a festival tonight and it looks good to wear pink. But it's like I bought the Shaquille one. I don't think I've ever watched, what do they call it, a hoop?
Yeah.
I have no idea how to play basketball.
Yeah.
But I've listened to Shaquille O'Neal for like 12 hours now, and I think he's a fucking superhero.
You just get inspired, like, and that's the thing, like, there's so many people that I listen to and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll probably not get, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like, I'm like, yeah, I liked his movies when I was a kid, didn't think much of him, like, you know, and then I hear him and I go, holy fuck, this guy is just like walking gold. Like, the wisdom he has and the knowledge on how to work things, I'm like, wow, like, it's so good.
I wonder if everyone honestly can get to that once they get to a certain age bar. I wonder if, like, once we're like 65, 70, no matter what we've done, we could just drop gems, you know? You know what I mean?
Well, I think, like, there's a big difference between, like, knowledge and wisdom, and that's something, like, I've always classed myself as, like, pretty intelligent, like, to my own horn, you know.
I count myself pretty intelligent.
Yeah. Like, you know, like, I'm like, I love knowledge, I love learning about things and, like, have all this interest in stuff. But it wasn't probably until recently that I'm like, there's a big difference between knowledge and wisdom. Like,
it's like, I know what I'm talking about, but I don't know why I'm talking about it.
Yeah, and applying it to life and going like, yeah, bro, like, you just got to let things be the way they are and do all of this stuff and just ride the wave. Like, Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. You've been on your Jay Shetty wave, because like you've mentioned to me in multiple podcasts now, Jay. Did you listen to the Tom Holland one?
Yes, I did. Yeah, the next day. He was, he's so chill.
Yeah, he's
so
cool,
good, down to earth. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Jay Shetty. He went through so much, like, controversy. Did you hear about any of his controversy?
I heard some of, like, people were saying, you know, he wasn't really a monk and did all of this stuff. And I'm like, but even still, he's trying to change the world and he's not doing anything bad. So, like, what's the... like, I'm like, it's the message he's putting out, and I don't think that he's, like, a horrible person or anything like that. So what's the fucking deal? Like, he didn't do exactly certain things, I guess. But,
sorry to cut you off.
No.
I should have apologized in advance, but I'll do that for 2 hours.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all good.
But the reason why I bring it up was because I have a friend at the moment. I might give him a shout out to Shreyas. He's coming back on actually in like 5 episodes from now or something. But he started posting like videos on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, and he gets a lot of hate. Like, fuck, he gets so much hate. It's crazy. And he's gone through waves of how he feels about it, but right now he's posting more than ever. Yeah. And I said to him, because now that I'm doing my in real life videos and stuff like that, it's so awkward. Like, people are judging you, this, that.
Yeah, like putting yourself out there for stuff. Yeah.
Especially in person. Like, I'm recording, talking to a camera, and I know there's like 50 people in this shopping center looking at me.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I was like, bro, how do you do it? Like, how do you cope with the hate?
Yeah.
And he's like, if you're not getting hate, you're not doing enough shit.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's so, like, if you have people judging you, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time I feel like if people are hating or judging you like that, it's just a projection that they wish they could do that shit and they just don't. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I hear that, but then if I also see some, I'm going to say gay shit. I see some gay shit online. Like, I think to myself, like, oh, why would they do that?
Yeah.
And I might not leave hate, but then I also judge it. But then I think to myself, like, and actually I was having this conversation with my friend Mario. I was like, maybe I'm judging them because I'm like, I'm proud of them for doing something that I'm not doing. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be too embarrassed to do that.
Yeah.
And they're not embarrassed to do that.
Yeah.
And that pisses me off.
Yeah.
How come you're not embarrassed? I would be embarrassed.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. Like, I think that there's people that do want to do things and they just feel that uncomfortableness and don't want to lean into it and kind of, like embrace that side of themselves or parts of themselves. But I think that like a lot of what we kind of experience and go through, it's like you get a lot of growth from that uncomfortability. Like even doing this today, like I was just like, oh man, like if you had asked me 3 years ago or something like that to do it, I would have been like, no, there's no fucking way. Whereas like this year I'm like, okay, yep, I'm terrified, but like, fuck it. I'll just do it and see what happens. Like, you know, like living in that moment and just being curious about like how it's all going to work out. But
I knew it too. I knew it was the right time to ask her because I was like, I think she's ready. I think she's ready.
I know, I've gone through like so much change in the last couple of years. It's insane.
Yeah,
like,
you have.
To put it out there, it's just,
Well, we might get to it, we might not even get to it. Like, that's the thing about the podcast. I love it. We can go in any direction.
with it. With it.
But speaking on the Arnold pod, I was thinking to myself while I was listening to it, like, I don't know if I don't want to ask you because I'm trying to ask more people this. I don't know if I actually set myself enough visions to then become the person who I say I'm going to become, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, he's like, you know what? Superstar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this year was the first year I ever told myself, you know what? I'm going to become a superstar. So now I'm telling myself I'm going to become a superstar. But I think to myself, have I done that at all yet? Have I told myself I want to be this and done it? You know?
Been to that level.
Yeah.
I think...
Let me pause that.
I think like because like I live a little bit in woo-woo land with like manifestation and spiritual stuff.
Good.
Yeah, like so far, I fucking love it in woo-woo land. And it's like when you talk about like what I've learned about manifestation is like you can have the vision, but you've got to be really clear about what you want from it. And so even like with starting my own business and everything like that, I knew what kind of route I wanted to go. Like I didn't want a shop front. I didn't want like all these overheads and stuff. I wanted to attempt that more work-life balance and be like less stressed. And I was like, I don't want to do big dogs and I don't want to do all of these other things. And it's like every time I became clearer on the vision that I was heading towards, like it just started happening.
Man.
And so that's where I'm really like, if you're not getting what you want, maybe you need to, just
redefine it.
And just like baby step it. And that's really like in all the change that I've gone through. Like I used to look at changing my life and just it's overwhelming, like how much you have to do. And it's like, but if you just take like one tiny step per day or change like one tiny thing here and there, well then everything starts to gain more like momentum and clarity. And then you're like, holy shit, like what the fuck, everything, like even doing a podcast, right? Like I had sat there and gone like, because I love them so much and been like, man, it would be so cool to do one.
Yeah.
And like, what the fuck? Like, you know, and now I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm doing one. This is insane. And that was just off like a thought. And it wasn't like you could sit there and go, oh, you know, I'd love to be on this big ass podcast and stuff. But it wasn't that. It was just like, yeah, I'd love to do a podcast one day. Like, I think it would be cool.
Yeah.
And now it's happening. So like the more I kind of like have visions and the more I believe that things are possible, it's, and then I just stay curious because I'm like, oh, I believe it's going to happen. Yeah. How's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? Like, and just having that like curiosity.
I love that.
Yeah.
I tell myself like, am I dreaming big enough? You know, if it's all real and I believe it to be real, manifesting.
Yeah.
Like, am I selling myself short? Shouldn't I just aim for as big as possible? You know? Should I just aim for like, I think, I genuinely think to myself, it'd be mad to have like tens, if not hundreds of millions. But let's make that the least interesting thing.
Yeah,
you know? Like what else can we achieve?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And I think, making it about like you and what you want to accomplish. Like, and I think it's great to have those like massive goals, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like just see what you can do today to move towards that. And that I think is just it's just a lot calmer than trying to like go full flog, because then you'll like burn out or things won't go your way and then you start to suffer and get frustrated and be like, oh my God, like why did I only get one new follower today or something like that, where it's like if you don't make it about the following and you make it about being your authentic self and what you want to come from it and what you're putting out there for people, I think that's like, where the gold is really.
Yeah. I've been thinking like live the life now that I want to live later.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm aiming for a life where I can either train every day whenever I feel like exercising and then eat these certain foods that are always healthy but yet tasty and experience the world as much as possible. It's like, well, let's just do it now.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I'm already living that life, you know.
100%. Like
the money will come. That's what I tell myself. It's hard for me as well. I got money locked into like the front part of my brain. Like it's guiding a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But it's nice to be able to let it go and just say, okay, why do I want money? So I can have a bit more freedom, experience, taste new foods, go to new places.
Yeah.
Let's just do that now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think, like, especially in Western societies, like money and success and fame and fortune or whatever, we idolize that. And really, you can look at really rich and successful and famous people, and a lot of them, like, they're not happy, or they give their money away and turn around. So like, money, I feel, especially for me, like even with my business, like I don't make 6 figures, like, you know what I mean? But do I make enough to put a roof over my head, have that security, be able to do the things that I want to do? Yeah. But my peace of mind and that stress-free life that I now have from being my own boss and being able to schedule my own things. I would give a fuck how much money I make. Like, you know, it is just so nice to, have that freedom a lot more. And then it's like, if I really wanted to later down the line, like when my kids are a bit older, to start doing something a bit more like bigger or crazier for myself, well, then I have all the kind of resources and know how to do it. Yeah.
You're the person fit to become that next level of person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's the best part about it too. Like you have to, it's like opportunity isn't always there, but you have to be ready for opportunity whenever it does come.
Yeah, yeah.
So if someone offers you to go, hey, dude, I feel like running a marathon today, like that opportunity won't come around. But if you've been doing 5Ks every week for the last year, all right, I think I can try it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. But it's also like, you know, I believe so heavily in like divine timing. And it's really like you can try and control and you can try and create things and all of this, but if the universe doesn't think you're ready for it, then it doesn't matter how hard you go hard. Like, you know, go for it. It will not happen until you're right. And if you listen to like enough people's stories, it's like they would be doing the thing for 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, and then boom, out of nowhere, they just blow up and everything that they imagine, like, you know, is there. So it's, like, I look back at, say, my career and how it even got started, and it's like the stars aligned and it was mental. Like, I literally went from being out of high school, working at a pizza shop at nighttime, partying with my mates every chance I got, having no direction or clue, and then our neighbours like started breeding toy poodles, and I was like, went over and visited them, saw this dog, was like, holy fuck, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen. Con the parents into getting it. Didn't even know the job existed. And my neighbours were like, oh yeah, you've just got to get him like groomed every couple of months. And I was like, what? And then mum said, oh, maybe you should look into that. You've loved animals your whole life. Like that could be interesting. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll have a think about it. Went back to life as it was. Making pizzas, doing whatever. 2 weeks later, me and mum were like chilling. She was reading the newspaper. She passes me a community college pamphlet, and in it is a 2-day dog grooming workshop up at Cooranbong. And I was like, get fucked. Like, mum, look at this. Go up there. They're like, you know what? We actually run like an 8-week course where you can do it, like learn everything if you want to. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. Like signed up, went and did the 8 weeks. As soon as I finished, there was a woman advertising in the newspaper for a dog groomer at Tuggerah.
Wow.
Went in, did an interview, trialed, got the job. And literally within 3 months of getting this fucking dog, I was working as a dog groomer for like one of the best groomers in Australia. And it was just like, how the fuck did that? Like it was just stars aligning, you know what I mean? And all divine timing. And every time like I've suffered with burnout or gotten like overwhelmed by it or thought maybe there's something more to life than this, and I've tried to leave the career, it doesn't let me. It doesn't let me. I think I left for like 18 months and then bills had to be paid, you know, and I was like, fuck, bro, I got to go back to dog grooming because it's the only thing I'm good at, like, you know, and I've just been in it, and I swear it was like probably when I was about 30, and I just sat there and I was like, bro, you're a dog groomer. Like, stop trying to argue with the fact and just be awesome at it and do what you can. And, you know, if my time comes where that's where the universe thinks like no more, then it will come.
And you'll know.
Then,
You'll know.
And you
Universe will
survive
tell you.
every bad day, you know. And so I sit there and I'm like, I don't even stress or worry or think about the change or anything, because there will be things that I will move on to and become a part of. So like
it's crazy because I don't even think
so
like
divine.
yeah, it is divine.
Yeah.
It's also so personally divine too, because I don't know if I've ever even seen the words dog groomer ever in my life, like on a paper, on an ad, on a TV.
Didn't even know it was a job, man, until I was doing it. Like it's like, how does that happen? Like,
that's crazy. And that must have been your divine timing. And you know, I like that you are also very spiritual. And I wanted to ask you as well, is anyone else spiritual? Because like your mum, I don't know if she's spiritual.
No, I grew up with like no religious background. Mum did used to claim she was an atheist, but like I think it was more kind of agnostic leaning. Obviously had like...
Because atheist is because atheist means to believe there is no God.
There's just
and that's
nothing, man.
Almost
like,
crazier than believing there is a God.
Yeah.
And that's also crazy.
Yeah.
And I believe there's a God.
Yeah, so do I. It's, you know, like I use kind of, I don't say the word God in like a religious context. Like I don't think it's some white guy with a flowing beard and robes on a cloud. You
don't identify with the father figure.
No,
mentality.
it's something like, you know, when I say God, it's like putting a kind of name to this like blanket shaped figure kind of thing, you know. But like when I say God or the universe, it's like interchangeable. But yeah, God, I guess humanizes it. I don't know. Like,
it does. It makes it easy for us to understand.
Yeah.
I think it's no, I'm not going to go there. I may as well say it. Like I think we use the term God, and I honestly think we use the term father figure to make it easy for people to understand.
Yeah.
It's the only reason we say Lord Father.
Yeah,
because like people know what it's like to look up to.
Yeah.
Father.
Yeah, a father
and then I think
figure.
like Mother Nature. It's like the same word as saying God, universe, Mother
well, that's
Nature.
the thing. I think like being a woman and trying to tap into like the divine feminine and everything like that, it's like Mother Nature is a big part of that, because we are very like nurturing and emotional creatures, and we move with like the moon and the seasons and all of this. And so as a woman, like I really like nature's where it's at for me. I love being in nature and being a part of it and seeing like the synchronicities and the way that like everything kind of ties in with each other. But yeah,
as a bloke, it's like this stuff's cool and it's pretty, but let's pull it apart and fuck with it and rebuild it.
Yeah. I know, and like we're so different. Like I think that like having the divine masculine and the divine feminine and how they are supposed, like it's all a balance, and life is all a balance is what I've discovered. It's like light, dark, good, evil, you know, feminine, masculine, yin yang, and
sin,
like that's
faith, like everything's like
it's such a delicate balance, and like I think that everyone's kind of on spectrums with a lot of things, but yeah.
Oh, speaking of on spectrums, I identify with that.
For sure, bro. Touch of the tisms.
It's cool. I like it because every time you're saying anything about spirituality in a way, or manifesting, or like divine timing and your path, like for me, no one else is obviously not in the Sturtons or the Doxies. No one's Christian, any type of religion or anything. But I started going to church at like maybe 14.
Yeah, right.
Until like 16, I reckon.
Yeah.
And then from there, I thought, I'm a Christian. I'd get like the cross equals heart and draw it on my hand and shit. And I'd be like, and they'd be preaching. I'd be going, Jesus! And all that shit. Fuck, I still love it. Like, I still go to church. I think it's cool and stuff. But my relationships change over time. And I just think everything that is like written in the Bible is the same things that everyone's talking about. They're just using different terminologies, like they say prayer and you ask and you shall receive. It's no different to being like, it'd be mad to be on a podcast and being on a podcast.
It's no different.
Like,
it's manifestation.
It's the same word. Everyone's just going at it with different ways.
With different stuff, And I think like, because when I was a child, I was always kind of thinking deeper things. Like I'm very deep in how I feel and like very sensitive in how I think about things. And I remember as a child being like, why the fuck am I here? Like, what's the purpose of this? Like, I don't understand. And like, we had to do scripture, like in our public school, and going to that was, I guess, the closest thing that I could understand. So like, and then when I went to high school, some of my best friends were Christians. and like they went to church, and like I'd tag along with them, but there was just something about it that I couldn't subscribe fully to. And I didn't know what that was. I was like, I get it, I understand it, but something doesn't sit right with me. And I love learning about religion, like especially the Abrahamic religion, like Judaism. I don't know, that like hits a bit different.
Yeah, it's the OG.
Yeah, mate, like there's some, like when I listen to a podcast with rabbis, I get a little bit excited, and I'm just like they're so interesting. But like even with Islam and listening to a few like Muslim podcasts and everything, and I'm like, they're all kind of speaking the same language.
Yeah, you just part 1, part 2, like what do you want to do?
I see like these kinds of patterns, and it's like I even like I love Buddhism, Hinduism, all like the Taoism and stuff like that, and they even have the same similar patterns and things that they say. Like it's
crazy.
Everywhere.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you got like the Quran where Muhammad is obviously the prophet everyone looks up to be like.
Yeah.
And he teaches the principles of Jesus before him. He was like, Jesus is what we all need to follow be like Christ. Then Christ in the Bible, which is like the library of books over 10,000 years, however long it is, in the one that we have today, even the King James version, it's like there's like 11 chapters, 11 books missing from that, and one of them is Jesus' lost years. So he went, and that's what they call it in the Bible, the lost years. And one of those books was what he went to, I think India. I think it was India. I could be wrong. And he learned about Buddhism, and he went and he learned about Buddhism, and the teachers that Jesus preaches and practice as a authority figure were Buddhism principles. And Buddha was he grew up as a Hindu follower, and he learnt Hindu religion, and then he became the point in which was enlightenment and be like me, and then he taught his point from Hinduism, and it just keeps going.
Well, that's so interesting because like I really love Ram Dass. So Ram Dass was like an American psychologist, and he was in the rat race, and he was about to get like tenure at Harvard and working for the colleges, and then he got swept up a lot with like Timothy O'Leary and the LSD kind of movement. Ended up in India, and then was searching for like this guru, and he found this guru Maharaji. And what really fascinates me about that is like in lectures, so then obviously Ram Dass came back to the States and was like teaching all the principles that he'd learnt from the Vedic tradition and Hinduism. And it's interesting because in one of his lectures that he gives, he talks about there's missing parts of the Bible that's been taken out about incarnation and reincarnation. Yeah. And so like you saying that, I'm like, what, bro? I didn't know about that.
The lost years.
And he also said like Maharaji, his guru, and like these, the more he talks about him, I'm like, fuck, bro, he's like a god in, this like bald Indian fat man's like clothing. And anytime Jesus was mentioned in front of Maharaji, he would just like smile and have these beautiful things to say about Jesus. And that's like, see the connections
crazy.
and the patterns about it.
It's actually crazy. And I don't know if the timing's off or wrong, but because we've gone through like, let's just say since the start of the calendar, which was Jesus' apparent birth, 2,000 years, everything past that's almost lost. We don't know how long. They say in the Bible they crossed the desert for 40 years. I'm telling you now, no, they didn't. No. You know what I mean?
It might have been like years.
120 days.
Yeah.
But then like, because the timing's so off as well, what we have recorded history is off by a few hundred years or something. But there is a lot of scripture that states that Jesus and Buddha were both such powerful people in their time that lived such holy lives of peace and goodness.
But they were so human too.
Yeah, they were human. They were just human.
Yeah.
That they actually crossed paths with their followers, met at a point and shook hands and had a conversation, and then both went on their ways.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that for the first time, like probably like 6 years ago or something like that, maybe a bit more. And I remember being stoned as to. Honestly, I was like, what?
Isn't spirituality and religion better high anyway?
I remember being
break
like,
the brain barrier. Oh, yeah.
And I remember hearing it, and it fully like unlocked a new level of my thinking where I was like, wow, there is energy and it's powerful. And they might not even be real. They might not have crossed paths, but I felt what it felt like to understand that.
Well, it's all like, and a lot of what like Ram Dass teaches and the Hindu kind of Vedic text is all about there is nothing but we're all connected. There is no separation. There's just forms. And so there's this like really, I found it complex. Other people might. So I'll try and explain it. But it's like if we all come from the same energy source, right? A God or the universe, whatever burst open, right? And God got bored and was like, I've created all this shit and now I want to experience it. So he breaks apart parts of himself into souls, sends them to earth. Like the fact that no human being, like you will never exist ever again.
Yeah.
Like, and you have never existed
Yeah.
until you were born.
Yeah.
I had like we are so completely different. The way that we live and think and what comes out of our like how we even see the world, and like we could go through a traumatic event together and react completely differently.
Yeah, we have different beliefs on what even really happened.
And so it's like in that, so it's like God is actually experiencing himself through what we do. So like there is no separation. You have God inside of you. I have God inside of you. He's choosing to be single mother dog groomer, like female from, you know, the Central Coast Australia. And then he's choosing to be this
future superstar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, it's, I love it and that makes a lot of sense to me in terms of like the good and evil of the world as well, is that, you know, God could be the richest person on the planet living in all this luxury and lavishness, and he's also the child in the slums of India.
Yeah.
And he's, you know, experiencing everything from every kind of aspect and how to die in certain ways and like how to live in certain ways.
Yeah.
And so we all just come back as different forms and there is no real, so that's where I'm just like, we're all connected.
Yeah.
It's all loving kindness and compassion because we're all just doing the thing that we're put here to do.
Yeah.
And
it's weird because it's like, I think about, there's so many things that make sense to me in that same subject. Like, I guess science and mathematics, it does explain it in a way, because if the universe is infinitely expanding, means infinite possibilities, it's not possible for us not to be one.
Yeah.
You know, there has to literally mathematically be in the equation.
Yeah.
Well, we already know we have to be separate because we are individuals.
Yeah.
We also have to be one.
Yeah.
Like it has to be.
Well, the separation is just ego based.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, the more like I find the ego fascinating, and that's something like when I discovered how that operates, it's the identity that we create for ourselves, and that's why we fear death, because the ego will die. Or like we have those ego deaths and we freak out about like losing our identity, and that's why we fight each other so hard about like, you know, politics and beliefs, gender, like all of the stuff, because it's like we feel like we need to be separate and be something special and unique. And it's like Ram Dass has this quote, and it's like, first you have to become somebody and then you have to become nobody. And there's also, I think it's Carl Jung says something very similar, where it's like the first half of your life is being told who you are and the second half of your life is forgetting all of that. So it's like that's something I really, really look at. And, you know, like every time I have a reaction to something, I'm like, whoo, my ego is out to play, bro. Like what is going on? And I find that when I have been hurt or something is upsetting me and I'm going through those kind of lower vibration emotions, I feel further away from God and I don't have clarity on the situation as well. And so I hate it, because when I'm in God and like have the clarity of life, I'm like, everything's cool, man. Everything's gravy. Like it's all going to work out. Love and kindness, like, you know.
It's so obviously bliss right now.
And then somebody like triggers me and I'm just like, fuck everything, like, you know, and I just
I will burn this house
I'm
down.
like, I will rage everywhere. But it's the ego is what separates it all, and we all want to be right. Like that's what it wants ultimately, is to be right and keep it. It's
nice that I hear it so much, and it's like I kind of get it not having the ego aspect, and that's why I think sharing in community and examples like Christmas and giving presents on birthdays, like those feelings are so strong and they make you feel so good, because you're removing your own interests and you're putting someone else first. But I love having ego. Like I You know what I mean? Like,
well, a little bit is good.
Yeah.
We need it to survive, I
Yeah.
think. You know, but I think that when the ego runs the show, that's when you have problems with it. So,
Yeah.
you know, even you sit there and some of the most enlightened beings, like, you know, Ram Dass used to sit there and he'd still have fears about death and separating himself from, you know, this identity that he was created. Like the fact that, you know, imagine if you became a world famous podcaster, right? Like you hit your dreams, you still have to die.
Yeah.
And then what? Like, you know,
Yeah.
you're going to be in the earth and you're going to be forgotten about. And like, does that make you go, oh no, I don't want to leave? Like, you know,
It does.
because
It
yeah.
does, yeah.
And that's the ego going like, but on the other side, you don't know if it could be like way better. I think
Yeah.
it's way better on the other side. Anyway.
Well, you know what I think it might be as well? I think we might, because we don't talk about it enough, and obviously you don't learn about any of it through school because it's just play.
Yeah,
you know? It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
it's not like evidence-based stuff or historical, but like maybe the ego that drives you to want to put yourself first is a survivalistic instinct that you have to make sure you keep eating and drinking and
it's a
stay
protection.
sheltered and all that.
Yeah.
And then maybe the fact that you feel like you might die scares us because we're not living as God to our full potential of like, right, well, I was born to experience having my own business as a dog groomer or being a superstar or fucking becoming the fastest swimmer in 100 meters, whatever it might be. Like it might be that the ego might just be that part of us that isn't even us. It might even be part of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
That's like, this is your mission, you know? If you don't look after yourself and you let this person step on you and insult you and you let this person rob from you and you do all these things and you're not going to make your job happen, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's like, you know, in Hinduism, it's called like your dharma is your purpose and what like your soul's purpose is of coming. And then obviously like karma comes into play and things like that. But the ego is primarily there, like it is formed around, I think, and don't quote me on it, but like, you know, in the terms of psychology, like you have your id first, like that identity, like, you know, the survival thing in you, and then your ego kind of wraps around it. And so it's not only like, it's not like, oh, he's got a huge ego because he's arrogant, but it's actually protecting in every way. And so, you know, there's even points of like, I have felt negatively about myself and my ego will reiterate that because it wants me to believe that that's who I am and that's how I have to stay. And so that's where I'm like, you have to control it and you have to understand. But yes, in the same term, it's like if someone's disrespecting you, like you will get triggered and your ego will go off and it's, you know, and that is that survival thing. So yeah, it's more like that's how I look at it. It's like trying to protect me from something.
Yeah.
But you have to, like control it. And
I wonder if it's like the yin yang then. I wonder if it's like, because I know what it feels like too. Sometimes I'll beat myself up for, to be honest, if I don't get a haircut on a Thursday, I'm miserable on a Friday. Like that's my ego playing. Motherfucker, you can look better than you look today.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's a balance and all we're doing is like, if we're going to try and paint a picture of what it could mean, it's like you're looking at the yang instead of looking at the yin. It's the same thing and it's the same drive. It's the same feeling. Like you can be better, you can improve, you can do all these things. And maybe we take it to heart the wrong way when we're looking at it that way. But the same message can be like, hey, you know, you can look better if you don't get a haircut. Is it also the same message as like, you look like shit when you don't have a haircut?
Yeah.
It's the same drive. We're just looking at the same lens. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, I think it's like, I think intention plays a lot into it as well. Like if you have like being of service of people, you know, there is parts of you that go, oh, well, I'm going to buy this gift for my friend to cheer them up, right? And it's being beautiful and like they've had a shit time. I'm going to go buy them something to cheer them up. But like, it's still ego in there because it's like, oh, they're going to love me more because I bought them that gift, you know.
Charity is a gift you give yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And so like, I think it's knowing that the intentions and how you use your ego as well is like, you know, coming down to it. Like if you had no ego, you'd probably just be like a blob. Like, you know, you wouldn't have really any opinions about something. Like having no opinions, having no drive, having no ambition with things. And I think like intention is it's a very, very important thing, I feel like. Yeah.
And it's like, to be honest, if you're donating or you're giving or you're doing things for others because of the fact that you think you're going to get praised and rewarded for it, it's a good thing, eh?
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I think I used to beat myself up for it too. Like I think to myself like, oh, I'm going to buy this person's Macca's like in the drive-thru. And then like I'm thinking, fuck yeah. And then I'll look back and I'll see him like, oh, okay, that's sweet. And then I'm looking at the review and they don't give me a wave. And I think to myself, fuck you.
So why did you do it? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, that's the thing. You've got to do things with that good intention, but not expect the praise from it.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I think that's another thing as well, is like with our purpose, we get in this Western like success materialism kind of thing where we have to be doing these things and we have to be getting validated and like recognized for what we're doing. But it's like, it's all good karma. Like, you know, you even doing that and then going, oh, damn, they didn't like run up to my car and go, hey, bro, thanks so much, like for the Maccas. But it's like, you feel better about yourself in yourself. And that's something I've kind of discovered is like, anytime I feel down or sad, if you can be of service to somebody and say, listen to the friend that's going through like a hard time, or drop the care package off of the friend who's going, or, you know, you want to go feed the homeless and go to a third world country and, you know, do all that stuff, like they're all varying degrees. It's like you do end up feeling better about yourself. Yeah. And that's where I try and control my ego and go, yeah, I want to do these things because I do want to feel loved, but ultimately I am love and I know I'm going to feel better, and I'm going to get some good karma in return. And so like, even with reactions, like I know in Buddhism, like reactions are really, and like Stoicism as well, like it's do not react to stuff. Like you are an observer, you are a witness to what's happening right now. And I used to be very reactive.
Oh, same. I swear I've cut out reactions. I do not react to anything.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like I still get reactions, but I pause a bit now. And now I look back and when I have been learning how to control my reactions, I will look back and I go, oh, goddamn, I reacted. And then I do not feel good about myself.
Yeah.
And it's like, so now I kind of sit there and I go, well, is judging and going off at this person really going to do something beneficial? And I'm like, bro, your bad karma is going to come at some point. Like just, it's not even worth it. And so instead I sit there and I question and go, why did that like kind of set me off? Why was that the way that I wanted to react and everything? And try and, like discover what's inside of me that's made me do that.
Like why get the shits? I swear I've dated girls in the past that painted me the picture of why you don't react. Like they would just yell and scream, and even, you know who sets examples? Road rages. When road rages are going off, I'm like, and everyone I know road rages, man. Every single person I'm talking to on the phone in the car or in the passenger seat with them, I'm like, oh, please, bro. And that's a perfect, to be honest, maybe I kind of like that they do it because it teaches me again, don't act like that.
Always a reminder.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing, like I look at certain people that I've had relationship in my life with, and some of them like will be connected to me forever and others won't be, you know, they're just passing through. But I sit there and I'm just like, oh dear God, like, you know. But I look at them as like constant reminders of like how far I've come and how far I got to keep going. And like road raging, like, yeah, man, I used to love a good road rage, you know. But then I sat there and I was like, what's the point? Like at the end of the day, why am I so mad about somebody? And, you know, at the end of the day, what they're doing to me, I've probably done to somebody else. You know,
that's like a big drive for me too. Yeah. I think if someone cuts me off, I think probably deserved it.
Yeah, and then 2 days later, you cut someone else off, and they're going, "You fucking like you." Or I like to make it fun now. So instead of like kind of going swear wordish, and I'm like, oh, "Look at this goddamn spaghetti in front of me," like you know, just using stupid words. Or I just laugh and I just go, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. You think so?
Seeing the funny.
Well, you're gonna have a bad day.
Yeah. I just go, well, not very bright, but anyway.
Hate to have
your
karma.
I love doing like a thumbs up. It drives people insane. And I'm just like my ex used to go, don't do that to them. Like, you know, they'll fucking think that you're saying good job. And I'm like, oh no, it makes them really mad.
They know. They know.
Better than the finger. It's like, yeah, good job, mate.
They know. Yeah. Nah, it's cool. You did touch on that, and I want to go back to it as well. You said like people are like passing through your life, and you know they're passing through your life. That's one thing, and it's one of my favorite conversations because I struggle with that. Yeah. I can't let people go. Hey, I can't. I know I'm holding on to some people in my life, and I'm spending time with people that I shouldn't. Yeah. And I know I could. It's other people say I'm wasting my time, but I don't identify with it. I don't understand it. I don't care. I don't care if I'm hanging out with people that are smoking ice in a bathroom. I'm happy to hang out with them. You know?
Yeah. It's like I really, really struggle with change and like the impermanence of everything. Especially like going through like, you know, obviously my marriage has kind of gone, separated, broken down. And I spent like the last year like separate as a single mum. And I really, really struggled with the fact, like, I was with this man for 11 years. That's a third of my life so far.
I didn't know that. That's a long time.
Yeah, like crazy amount of time. Like, we have children together. And I really sat there. I was like, what do you mean we don't exist anymore?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I was like, I can't fathom that he's no longer in my life. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
But one thing that really helped me was knowing that the universe has been around for what, like 4 billion years?
More, who knows?
11 years is like
long time.
11 years is nothing. But for 11 years, that of the Earth's rotation, you know what I mean? Me and my ex were together. Like, and that can't be taken away. Do you know what I mean? And in my story and in my life, that will always hold a chapter.
That gives you so much peace to know that the universe can't take it away, the 11 years.
Yeah.
Man, I loved that bit. That was sick.
Like, it will always exist in the, like, you know, it's the same with us. Like, you know, yes, one day we'll be gone, but there will always be a Jake Doxie and a Rachael Stirton that has existed on this planet and in this timeline of the universe. And so, like, that's kind of how I made peace with it. But also the fact that, you know, through our children, we are connected for life, you know, and it scares me some days. And then some days I'm like, well, okay, that's like, you know, things will have to, like, you know, a year in, it's still very early days and there's going to be a lot of growing pains, like, you know, with a lot of relationships. But I had a lot of friendships where I deeply, deeply cared about these people. But there came a time where I just was not getting peace in it. One quote I really love is like, the universe will not give you peace in something you're not supposed to settle in.
I like that.
Yeah. And so for me, what I've discovered, especially with relationships or situations in my life, is if it keeps getting harder, then bro, it's not meant for you. And you've got to, that's the universe kind of saying, you got to fucking let it go. And so even with my ex, like, you know, still love him dearly, always will, you know, but there came a point where I was like going, oh, like, we could be friends and we can do this and we can do that. But every time I tried to force it and control it, I got punched in the guts. Yeah. And it just kept...
Everyone, not literally.
No. Yeah, no, sorry, no. He was lovely in that way. You know, but like, yeah, it just gutted me open and it kept getting worse and worse the more that I hung on. And so I sit there and think until there was a situation where I was like, and I literally, this situation, I remember like crying my eyes out and just being like, what the fuck just happened? And just going, okay, bro, I get it. Like, I get it. I'm not like, he has to go away for now. Like, and I have to separate and be distant from him and just like let him do what he wants to do. But obviously, I don't know what the future holds. And I have hope that stuff can get better for our kids and co-parent and stuff like that because, like, you know, our family, we want fucking love, light, everybody.
Dude,
like, once you're in, you're in.
It doesn't end.
It never ends. It never ends. But, you know, I really love that too. But, yeah, I've had, like, really good friendships and I've loved these people and I've cared deeply about them. But there comes a point where my mental health and my emotional health and well-being, like, it just got harder and harder and harder. And it's like, and nothing was changing. And you kind of just go, okay, I just got to hit pause here. Maybe it's pause. And I've actually said that to people and gone, you know, I just have to hit pause for a moment. And they've just wiped me out. And I go, oh, okay, well, I guess that's what we're doing now. Like, you know, and they've removed themselves. But like, you know, and I'm sure with some of your exes as well.
It's been a couple of them.
Yeah. It's like, did life get harder or easier while you were with them, you know, until the point came where you're just like, fuck, bro, like I can't do it anymore. Yeah. And so I think that when God pushes you to that point where you're just like, holy shit, I can't. And like, it's the same as like, getting sober. Like, I've been sober nearly 7 years, like 7 years in April. And it's like, the biggest thing to keep a lot of people sober is when like it just gets so fucking hard that the other option is better. Like, you know, so it's like I drank from, I think I had my first drink when I was 13 or something, like not to get pissed, but first got drunk at like 14 and then I got sober at 29. And it's like there got a point where I was like, fuck, I've never experienced life sober. Like I was like every party, every dinner, every event, every fucking day. Like, you know, I have been drunk. What the hell? And then the scariest part was like, what do I do now? Like, what do you do when you don't drink?
Yeah.
And it got...
podcast.
Yeah. I know. You do something with yourself. Like 100% getting sober was like the best thing. I wish I did it sooner, but like divine timing. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, like...
I don't think you should have done it sooner. I got to chuck that in there. Not at all. I think you should be proud and happy that you got to live that life while you lived it.
Yeah, yeah.
I fucking had a great
there was
time,
there was some good times, but there was some really fucking shitty times.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that it definitely came around at the right time and I was 100% ready. And so people kind of got there and like some people are really sensitive and are like, are you okay if we have a drink? And I'm like, yeah, bro. Like never once when I decided to get sober was I like, nobody can drink around me. I'm not going to parties. I'm not doing that. Like I remember 3 months in, my brother got married and I had to go to a wedding and I was peeking out. I was like, what the fuck do people do when they're sober at weddings? Apparently vomit under, no, you did that. Vomited under the table on someone's shoes.
Was that there? Yeah. That wasn't that wedding. Oh my gosh.
We were talking about it on the way home today. It was hilarious. But like
that was so bad. I remember sitting there pissed. I was like, I'm not gonna make it out of this table. Yeah. So I just put my head under the cloth. I came back up. I said, Dad, I just spewed under the table. He looked under the table and I don't know who these ladies are, but they were sitting next to me, vomit all over their feet. All over their feet.
And like, I remember like that was probably the hardest thing in the first year was like how do you live life when you're sober and what do you do at these things? And I remember going and I'm like, you eat, you talk to people, you have a dance, like, and then you go home and you wake up fresh as a fucking daisy. Yeah. And it slowly like got easier. And I like, I've been to some house parties and stuff. Like I never wanted people to change their life around it because I was like, this is a me problem. And I have no like judgments against people that need to have it removed. I know that there are people that struggle with alcohol and drug addiction like way more than what I did. But, you know, like there's a lot of people I know that sit there and go, oh, I just do it to have fun. Have fun. And I've gone to some parties and I look around, like I've been the only sober person at these things, and I look around and you've got old mate over here trying to headbutt other old mate, you know, you've got this Sheila with her G-banger hanging out, like spewing in her hair over on all fours. You've got some other guy like having a chuck over here. This person's arguing.
Crying.
Like,
oh, mate's crying.
Oh my God. And like, I remember being at this party and like people come up to you and they're like, fucking love you, bro. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. Like, I can't even understand what you're saying to me. Like, you know, and I just go, is this fun? Like, is this fun?
That's a good point. That's a great point. I think that too. Like, cause is
that judgy? Like, is it fun?
I think that, yeah. Well, the thing is, it's like you kind of know it's fun in the moment because you're experiencing what you're experiencing, but you aren't present. You know what I mean? You're in the fairyland, which don't get me wrong, is a fun place to be. I do, and I did enjoy it, but I kind of find myself whenever I'm hanging around it now is like once there's no more people to talk to, it's my time to go. And I kind of like that because I get to go home early. I can edit, I can sleep, I can train, I can do whatever I want to do. Yeah. But then, like, I enjoy being there, watching the crying, the fighting, this. But once everyone's gotten to that point where when I hear the same story twice, I'm out.
It's entertaining for sure. Like, I just sit there and be like, what the fuck is this hell on earth? Like, you know, and you just sit there go, wow, okay. You definitely see a different side to humanity. And then it also, like, it really reiterates my decision too because I sit there and I go, fuck, I used to be like this.
Yeah.
Like,
my friend was saying that to me the other day.
It's like I've done all of these things. I'm like, I've tried to headbutt someone, I've spewed up on all fours and I've like cried my eyes out and told people I love them that I just met. I'm like, oh, it's such a reminder.
Well, my friend was saying to me the other day, he was saying, oh, dude, I'm going to try and go sober this year. I'm going to give you a shout out, Tubby. You didn't, just so you know. And he's like, I was out picking someone up from his place, and this person came up and started talking to me. And I thought to myself, like, oh my gosh, I'm this person every week. And he was like, I don't want to be this person every week anymore. Hear your own words, Tubby, just so you know. Like, listen to me. But I think to myself, like, and to be honest, I want to go back to something you said before I keep going from here too. Is that you said, like, in the moment of peace, which is where you got the same moment of peace from going sober, like, of I can't believe this person isn't in my life, and that led you to find the peace, right? That I put a pin in that because I wanted to say, like, that it was interesting to me because I've never had that feeling out of a relationship, like, I can't believe this person isn't in my life, because I think that in the relationship, when I'm in every relationship, I'm in that moment like, I can't fathom that this person's in my life.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't making sense to me.
Yeah. Like they've entered into your life.
Yeah. And the fact that we are hanging out instead of not hanging out. Like that was nice to hear your perspective of it.
Yeah.
To know that when you're not with someone, you can also feel like this doesn't feel natural. I just think that every time I'm doing it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And then when I'm by myself again, it's like, obviously I still go through all the hard feelings of it as well. But then I kind of feel a bit more peaceful.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now I'm where I should be, you know?
Oh, definitely. Like like it was devastating because I am quite traditional in the ways that I view, like, a lot of, I was brought up kind of that way. And, like, when I got married, I totally believed that I would be with this man for the rest of my life. Like, it was just, we love each other. Like, love is all you need, right? Like, you know, and that I think was so absolutely heartbreaking for me. The hardest part was still loving somebody but knowing that you shouldn't be together anymore. And it was just slowly destroying. And I think that...
Well, you know what it was too? It was the story too. You had to let go of the story that you told yourself, which is, there you go again.
Yeah.
'Cause I actually do know what that felt like, because I remember my first girlfriend from high school. I remember always thinking to myself, like, we were together for like 5 years or 6 years or something. I remember thinking to myself, I will be the guy who stays with his girlfriend from high school. We'll be that couple. We'll be that.
We'll make it work. We'll be the outliers to everything.
Yeah, there isn't a reality I live in where that's not possible, you know?
Yeah.
And then when that broke up, I remember thinking to myself, I think the story ending of the fact that I won't be able to say I'm with the same person since high school was more devastating than letting that person go out of my life, you know?
Definitely. I've definitely had those thoughts of, like, oh my God, like, have I failed? Like, I thought that it was going to be this way. And, like, a lot of, like, I've dealt with a lot of grief over the last kind of 3 years. Like, I think I calculated it. And it's like, with people that have passed away, or like pets that have passed away, or even the breakdown of my marriage. And what people don't talk about a lot too is that, like, you not only lose your husband or wife, you lose their family as well. And it's like, in one decision that I made, in one day of my life, I lost like 8 people, bang, like that, that were people that I grew up with and that they grew up with me, and we were always together with each other. And it's just like, the grief of that is overwhelming. Like, you know, 15 losses, like, between people that have passed away. And like, that is like, I got very acquainted with like grief and loss and like losing things from my life. And I think that's why I panicked so much and was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean we don't exist and these things don't exist and these people don't exist, like, you know, in your life anymore? And it's not only grieving what you thought what you had, it's what you thought you would have.
Yeah.
And so,
Grace, that was...
But that is literally it. It's like, I had this whole future mapped out with this person and how we were going to grow old together and what we were going to do and like how our kids would grow up and like all this stuff. And it's just... oh my God, we don't exist anymore.
That was the hardest bar I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
You don't just lose what you thought you had, you lost what you thought you would have.
Yeah, it's the future that you have together. Like, and it happens with like losing people as well. Like, I had my, like, this is what was crazy. So I separated from my husband and then 12 days later his mum died, like my mother-in-law. And I loved her. We were so close. And you know, you go through the grief of like, oh my God, she's not going to be at any of our stuff anymore. And like, any more births, marriages, like things like, she doesn't exist, like, you know, my kids' things. And so, you really, I think that's like the most painful part of grief is just.
Well, I feel like, and I could be wrong when I think this, but I've always assumed it because of patterns I've noticed, but it's like, whenever you make a decision, I feel like the universe or God, in my perspective, will send you tests to make sure you are committed to your decision, to really put you through it. Like you made a decision in one moment. That's, to be honest, the easiest part. Can you stick to it?
Yeah.
Everyone can sign up for a 12-week weight loss program or a diet or whatever it is. But are you going to, when Friday night comes around, you're going to order pizza, you're going to cook fucking salad again,
Well, that's exactly it. And like, that's what I feel that I made the decision. And then there was a lot of hard times because it's like, still love this person. Can we make it work? Like, and when I first split up.
You feel bad? Should I have done it?
Yeah.
What are the timing? Great.
Oh, well, it was like we separated for like 2 months and then we got back together for another 12 months. But it was like it just kept getting worse. And there was nothing that was getting resolved. And then even when we actually did split for good, it's like, like holding on to that attachment, just like, is it the right thing? Is it the wrong thing? But the universe let me know because every time, like I said, I was trying to control it or do you know we only have 2 to 4% of control? That is a tiny amount. And there are so many people out there that try and control everything. And like I used to be one of those people because I was so anxious and I'd overthink and I'd get like so just mental, have to control, everything has to go a certain way. The unpredictable was not allowed in my life whatsoever, or I would have a meltdown. And it's like, now I look back, I'm like, that was so futile. It was so stupid because it's like, I had no control, and now as I get older, every time I try to control something, it's like the universe could, mate, no, you are not like Jesus has the wheel. Like, you know what I mean? You're just riding shotgun. And it's like that's what we can control, our reactions to things and how we handle things and whether we approach things with like loving kindness. But
I think you kind of get to control, and I might be wrong with this, but I'm starting to believe it. You kind of get to control one thing at a time. That's the only thing. It's like your purpose in a way. What do they call it? You say
your Dharma.
Dharma.
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah.
I always get confused with that word because I think of Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm not thinking of the right word. I'm off by something.
Yeah.
But I think to myself, whatever your purpose is, that's the thing you can control.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Like my purpose lately has been like I want to start a new apprenticeship, but I didn't want to go through all the works of like going back to first year wages and all these. And so I was trying to jump through hoops, and then this company said, sweet, last day it was meant to happen, fell apart.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just decided this is my purpose. And then everything that popped up as a hurdle, eventually I fucking got there in the end. And I feel like I'm glad that was my purpose because it was the only thing I could control. And the universe just went hurdle.
Yeah.
But everything else kind of took a big pause. I couldn't control nothing else.
No.
I couldn't even control what I ate because I'd forget to take my steak out of the freezer.
Like I think that's it. Like that's letting go and surrendering was probably like the main theme of stuff for me last year, is just like surrendering that. Everything will happen in divine timing, the way that it's meant to happen. Like I said, did I ever think that I would be separated, single mum, like no, fuck no, like never in my wildest dreams, but it happened and I'm surviving and it's like I'm thriving even, and so I get there and I'm like, oh wow, life got really good. And it's not to say that my life wasn't good back then, but it's like I had to move on. And that was just it. Like it didn't, and like I tried my hardest and I pushed and I shoved as much as I could, but every time I did, like I said, it just never worked out. And so I just surrender now and I go, what will be, like, and just keep kind of moving through, like, and seeing what I think it's just staying curious now.
Oh, you are so curious. I was thinking that for like 30 seconds as you got to that point.
Yeah.
I find you to be very curious, and I love that. Like, we always get to have spiritual conversations. Like, we can even have political conversations or whatever. We can talk about full drives for
I'm fascinated, like, and I love that too. Like, and when I meet people, and if they do something unusual or unique, or like if they know something, like I think I can learn something from everyone. And I'm just like, fucking tell me, what do you know, bro? Like, you know, it's like I'm super curious, and like probably 5 or 6, probably for most of my life, like living in that real insecurity and like anxiety and trying to control everything. It's like I used to not even like going for walks because you'd be like, oh my God, I'm a lady out walking. Like, is someone going to attack me? Am I going to get abducted? What if this? What if that? What if that? And now it's like, I just do what I want because it's ultimately, it's like I go for walks around nighttime. Like I remember even when we were in Alaska and like the first day there, and everyone tells you about bears, right?
Yeah.
And we go for this like walk around this beautiful lake. And my sister-in-law was like, she heard something in the woods or heard there would be bears in there. And she's like, no, not doing it. And I just was like, well, if it's my day to be eaten by a fucking bear, then so be it. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, okay. So I just kind of do everything now and I trust and I have faith that it will work until it doesn't work for me. Until the trouble comes.
And we'll deal with that when that comes.
Yeah, and then it happens because, like, what's the point in being stressed out about it prior to that? Like, it's...
Well, I think we'd and I've had this conversation a lot lately as well, like we'd be living so much of our lives in fear of the unknown that stops us from doing so much, and I reckon it controls me in a point where I don't know what it is. You know, like I've got friends, I try and push myself to do it lately. Like I might even just like, it might just be as simple as saying a joke in front of people. Like I don't think this is funny, but I'm just gonna say it because I don't know what's gonna happen, you know. But it might be like, I want to perform this or make this video or I want to be a part of this thing, and it's like, I think for a lot of my life, I've been like, I'm scared of what's going to happen or what people are going to think of me, especially. That's a big one. But letting go of all that stuff and just trying to experience different things is now probably my purpose. I reckon my purpose now is to try everything I can try.
Well, that's what it is. And I think the insecurity, like definitely once you start to hit about 30, like, bro, you don't give a fuck. It's like, you know, you see those old people and you're just like, man, they don't give a fuck. And it's like, because they really don't. And you get to that point where you're an adult now and like the shit that you care about, what people judge you on, it just doesn't really affect you. And I think the more you become, I know for me, the more sure I've become of myself and kind of like discovering who I am and coming home to myself in that way, the easier it is, because then you have your beliefs and you go, yeah, this is who I am and these are my beliefs. And I might not be obnoxious about it. Like if I'm at a party and somebody talks about something I don't agree with, I don't go, well, idiot, you know, or I don't want to argue and fight, but I listen to them and I go, okay, that makes sense. You know, there's a lot of people that you and I really listen to and relate to, like Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Mate, he drops some gold, like, you know, but there's some things he says and I go,
like, come on, bro.
Not for me. You know what I mean? And I always do that. Like I cherry pick a lot of things. Like it's the same. I don't know. I sometimes wonder if I'm like not committed enough, but I'm like, but at the same time, like I think it's that curiosity where I will listen to people from completely different ends of the spectrum and I go, wow, fuck, they make a lot of sense with this thing. And this person did too. But like it doesn't.
And the opposites in a way as well. You know? I actually find that a lot listening to political debates lately. I've been listening to a lot of the left side, and I'm not about to turn this podcast into a political conversation, but
I'm
like
not very political, so I know the bare basics, but yes.
Trust me, I'm not going there. I'm just on that note. Like I've been listening to a lot of not exactly, but like the blue head screaming, really left side. Their opinions. And I don't know, lately I've been hearing them out a bit. Like, I can't adopt it, but it's like, I get it. I get it, you know?
I think, like, for me, you know, what I understand is, like, you always have kind of people that are more involved in the human aspect, and then you have people that are obviously involved in, like, the materialistic kind of aspect. And I, you know, think that everything's needed. Like I hate the division around like it should all be like this way and that's the way it is, because like we're not all the same. And then it turns into a dictatorship. But well, I'm not very politically inclined, so I'm not going to well, I know bits and pieces.
My favorite comedian, if not my favorite, is in my top couple. His name's Brian Callen. And he's not he's famous, he is very famous, but he's not as famous as he should be. He should be like Kevin Hart famous. He's that kind of comedian. He's very, very funny. But he has this bit in one of his specials where he goes, I believe wholeheartedly that a gay guy invented polka dots. Like it's not possible that didn't happen. He's like, and he's like my gay friend. I always think someone like him invented polka dots. And he starts spinning around and doing twirls and all this stuff. And he's like, look how beautiful life is. Put polka dots on it. You know. And he goes, this is gonna be a long bit, but he goes, see that giraffe over there? It used to be a horse. And he goes, make its neck really long and put polka dots on it. And then he's like, but my other friend, he's a pilot and he's like by the book. He's strict. He wakes up every day at the same time. He irons his shirt. He's not a minute late and he flies his plane. He's I need people like that in my life too. I want to know that when I enter this building, everything's structural, it's intact. They did the maths. It's not going to fall down. They fired people if they were late, and if people were being lazy, they got rid of them. But I don't want to live in a world without polka dots either. And I don't know why that's true. You know?
No, and that's the thing. Like, I think, it just divides people. Of like, we're right, you're wrong. Again, like it's all very. Whereas we are such diverse creatures, and what works for some and in the culture, I totally am for like embracing the differences of things. And I get you mentioned Alaska before, and I'm glad you bring it up because I haven't. To be honest, I haven't even had much time to talk to anyone about the Alaska holiday because I don't even talk to anyone in my house. You know, I'm pretty sure they enjoyed it. It'd be nice to hear your perspective of how you think the family holiday went, being of course the fact that I didn't go. I know.
So I'd love to know how you think it went.
About that. That was horrible. I think it went really well. Like, I mean, there was 20 plus
24, I think.
24.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people and a lot of different personalities. I think stress was high for a lot of it. And there was definitely, I don't think there was anyone that got out alive without having some sort of like clash with each other.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, it was great to spend time with everyone. Like, Alaska was incredible. Like, my nature's lover's dream.
Yeah.
Just, like mountains. Oh, crap. I've never even seen stuff like that. So it was, you'd walk out like on a lodge and it was just like a Bob Ross painting. You're like, what the fuck? Streams and mountains and trees as far as the eye can see. But yeah, like in terms of the family, I love it to get to kind of learn more about all of us because you always kind of experience different sides of people.
And being so many people, like I've noticed that even in little events, like, or a little cruise or whatever, it's like you only get pockets of people at a time. You know,
you have these like little gorgeous moments with people and you get to do it. And then like, I just love sitting back and watch the fucking bullshit unfold too sometimes. And that's something like in trying to observe more and listen and just like watch what's going on around me a bit more. Cause I used to be like very in your face and blah, 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 and like really control the conversation. And now I just like, I'm a bit more peaceful and calm. And I'm like, wow, it's really fascinating just to watch. And so I'd sit there at dinner sometimes and nobody would be talking to me and I'm just listening, overhearing the conversations or like just watching. I'm like, like
saucy.
Yeah. And it's interesting because then people will come to you and go, and I'm just
I love that, right? I love that, bro. There's nothing I love more than someone talking shit about anything to me. When someone says to me, bro, did you hear about this? I live for that.
And blah, blah, did this. And I go, like your dad got in trouble quite a lot of times. And then like.
Guarantee he did,
And there was like, I remember there was one moment and I didn't go to dinner one night with the kids and, everyone was like, oh, did you hear about Tony? And I'm just like, oh, fuck, what did he do? And then like, but it was so funny because like half of the people were like, oh, he was horrible. He was a nightmare. The other half were like, he wasn't even that bad.
He was hilarious.
Then, and then some people were like, oh, I didn't even know there was a problem going on at all. It was so funny because you just sit there and I'm like, well, I'm confused. Like, like
mad.
He is a menace, but like sometimes.
He is a menace, I love it, but my mates love it too. If my mates come over in a group, I'll invite Dad too because everyone gets a kick out of it. Dad loves it, they love it. He's definitely my favourite. My favourite stepbrother. Sorry, Darren and sorry, Daz.
But sorry, Daz. But yeah, like, you know, I know that he can be a bit much and drive people insane, but there's just something I love about him so much. Like,
Yeah, I love Tones. I call him Tones, eh? When I'm not talking to him, I call him Tones.
Yeah. And he just is. He's sometimes like the life of the party, and sometimes he takes that too far, and other times he doesn't. Like, you know. And I remember there was like this funny joke because I sat down with him one night at the dinner table, and the waitress thought that he was my husband. And so she like put our bill together, and I was just like, oh, okay. And I was
nice
like, here's your bill. And he's like, what the fuck? And he goes, nah, sis, I'll shout it for you, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, there was one other night and he was absolutely, like, shit-faced at dinner, and I'm like, would you fucking control yourself? Like, I was the one put in charge of him. And I'm like, come on, we're going now. My weird husband
like,
brother.
oh.
Yeah. Dragging him out. He, like, fell over in the lift and forgot his glasses. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
I love it.
Yeah.
I was gutted that I couldn't go. I got to the point very quickly, the fact that I couldn't go, so I didn't let it devastate me, but I was gutted. I was, bastards.
I know. When I found out you weren't coming, I was like, what do you mean? Like, no.
Fucking Alaskan and American bastards, eh?
I know.
Canadian bastards too. Fuck them all.
Well, I'm sure you were like probably a lot calmer. Well, that's what was crazy too. Like, I remember getting to Canada and going through like the visa thing, and they were like, oh, where is your children's father aware that they're leaving? Where's there some declaration? I'm like, I beg your pardon? Like, because they obviously thought that I could be a woman escaping Australia with my kids and never to be seen again. And I was just like, nobody fucking told me I had to get this. And I'm going, oh God, I'm not getting into Canada. Canada was pretty strict with stuff.
Yeah.
They were crazy. Yeah.
I love that the family does stuff like that, but like, and to be honest, I don't take it for granted at all. The fact that our families combined and merged is something that I speak of consistently. Like, I'm so grateful that everyone expanded. And do you know our families combining made our family closer too? Really? Way closer.
Yeah,
like,
I love that.
We all lived in the same house for most of our lives. I don't know if we spoke to each other at all.
Really?
Like, I don't know what my sister's middle name was.
Yeah, no, I definitely like, and because I grew up in kind of like, there was only 4, like very nuclear family, and like my dad had like alcoholism, like problems as well. And so nobody was really kind of close to him or have that like solid relationship with him. And I, you know, again, remember thinking a lot of my life, like, God, I would love to have like a big family or people in my thing.
Yeah, it happens, hey. Actually, now that you mention it, I thought that too my whole life. Yeah.
Like just to have...
Because I never even had cousins. I had nothing. No one.
Yeah, you wouldn't have now, and like they're too young for you now.
They're still cousins.
Yeah, and so just I think that, obviously feeling a bit lonely as a child or going through things that I went through and just being like, God damn, I wish I had like more siblings or something like that. And the fact of, because I think we all went on a cruise.
The first one I didn't go either.
Yeah, I know.
Fuckers.
I'm like, you need to get like the front row seat next time then for everything.
I'll plan it.
Yeah, exactly. But like we went on that cruise and just I couldn't fathom how everyone was just, we just all clicked and got along. Like, and
I feel like it was like that from the first Christmas, you know, like, and man, like I couldn't believe it as a youth. Like I was only like, I probably would have been 15 or something at the time, maybe.
Yeah, you were pretty...
and I just couldn't believe it. It was like overnight, I just had a whole massive extended family.
Yeah. And we just all got a lot, like that's the thing too. It's like to have that big family, but the fact that we all get along with each other like relatively well.
Yeah. And you know it's real because there's also bullshit in the middle.
Well, exactly. That's
Everyone's
exactly
happy to fucking like, piss each other off.
If you can go on like a fucking 2-3 week holiday with 20 plus people in your family, like, and Ram Dass has this beautiful thing, and he has this beautiful quote, and it's like, if you think you're enlightened, go and spend a week with your family.
Yeah.
And it's like, because they will trigger the shit out of you to the point that you're like, oh fuck. Like, so, and that's I remember like kind of going on the cruise with that mentality and just being like, I'm gonna get triggered. And I did a couple of times, but I was quite proud of myself. I don't think I snapped until the airport on the way home. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's cool. It's cool because it's like I feel like every couple of years I get to bring a new girlfriend into the family for a bit.
Yeah. I know. You need to get like a solidified.
Yeah. I'm gonna get another one in March. I've decided this year. I'm gonna get another girlfriend in March. Just so everyone listening, everyone knows.
Have you wrote a list?
I have, I kind of have made a bit of a list actually.
Yeah.
I haven't pen and papered everything, which is actually something I was going to lead to in a minute. But I've wrote down a list of some things I want to achieve this year, and a lot of them I've just left up inside my head. I'm trying to see the difference between journaling and letting it go, and constantly thinking about things at the same time.
Right.
And March. March, I'm going to get a girlfriend, yeah. I don't think I know her yet. I don't know if I do. But I'm gonna,
they show up in the weirdest of places.
Yeah.
I think back to like past relationships and again, like you try and control it and you try and go, I'm going to go out on dates and I'm going to meet people, and then just people show up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like, like even with my ex, it's like I remember going on dates with guys and like nothing was panning out, and I had to move out of the house I was in, and a friend was like, oh yeah, come and like rent a room or whatever. I've got a room just coming up to rent. And I moved in and he was one of my roommates. And I was like, Christ, I didn't even have to get out of the house.
How good's that?
Like, you know. And so that's what was crazy as well, is like for 11 years, we lived together from day dot. Like there was no.
That's what I do every time too.
Yeah,
I do
yeah,
that too,
yeah.
It's crazy. I'm so, I used to think I'm codependent, but I think I'm convenient. That's
What for the women? They're just like, oh yeah.
I'm just like, I could like go travel to their house, or why don't they just move in here?
Oh yeah.
How good would that be? Or I'll move in there.
Convenience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Plus your family's so welcoming as well.
Yeah.
They're probably like, yeah, this is nice.
That it's, come on. There's a spare bed, or you can just sleep in that bed, is what it is.
Yeah.
Even from like maybe 14, I had a girlfriend and she'd just be living at our house and in my room, like with us. And I remember Beth and Graham came over too, and they were like, are they allowed to be in the door with that door shut? And mum goes, doesn't bother us, you're sleeping in there tonight.
Change the sheets. No.
But bro, speaking on dates and first dates, honestly, that's something for the last year I have not wanted to do at all.
No.
I try, sometimes I push myself, let's make this day happen. I don't want to do it, and then it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Fuck, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
No, and I definitely, I gave myself like a ban anyway. Like once I separated from my husband, I was like, I am not doing anything man related for 12 months, because healing from everything and giving myself the time to grieve and to experience, because that's the thing too, is even though I've been sober for nearly 7 years, it was like everything, like a lot of those years were pretty boring and nothing really happened, and then it all showed up like very quickly. And so I now have gotten to experience like all this grief and loss and heartache with no numbing
dependency,
out. No, nothing. And it's been a really wild experience to become aware of.
I think to myself too, like getting sober was awesome, like for a sense that I've seen how much progression happened in the first year. Like I completely became a new person. But then when things got shit, I'd never been more grateful to be sober in my life. Like I thought myself, like for many times, like I can't believe that I'm actually able to logically think through this situation, and I'm like not in a routine or a habit of bags, beers, bitches, whatever, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. It was like, it's been such a experience in getting to know myself and how I operate in these times, and it's been really lovely, like as well. And to be into, because I spent a lot, like I had a pretty traumatic childhood and shit going on, and so like I was really disconnected from myself and my body and my emotions, and like I was very masculine when I was younger because I didn't really have a masculine person to protect me, and so I had to do that myself. And so I was all like, I don't cry, like fucking rage, you know, and I'm all tough and I can deal with it. And I would drink, and it's like, there'd be fun rage, and then like 5 drinks later it'd be explosive or crying Rachel, you know. And in kind of not hiding my emotions, I get to feel them in my body and I get to release them. And it's like, I heard something the other day, and it's like I think it was Jordan Peterson that said it, that in a study that every time you cry, it actually opens up your brain for more neural pathways. And I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you know, babies and infants will cry, and how people respond to them teaches them about their attachments and how things operate for them and the world works. And I was like, so I kind of welcomed, like I'd feel the pain coming on. And what I noticed is like the pain would come up And then I would be like, oh my God, no, 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 no. And it feels so bad and so painful and you feel like you're going to die. And I'm just like, oh my God, this hurts so bad. And then I'd be like fucking fetal position, hugging a pillow on the ground, like losing it. And then you just start to feel better and then you stop and you feel lighter and you're like, oh,
that's
so fucking
crazy.
bad. Do you know what I mean?
Crazy.
And like, no, if you seriously, like, I totally understand why some people try to avoid it or try to push it down, because when you become so aware of how your body operates, like, and I'd have moments where things would happen and I'd just start to feel that emotional pain in certain places, and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling rejected right now, and my heart hurts, and that's where I feel it. So sometimes my heart will hurt, and I'm like, oh, something's happening right now where I'm feeling rejected, you know, like, and it will happen even like I'll ring up a place and go, oh, hey, can I make a booking for this? And I'm sorry, we're booked out. And then I'll be like, oh, and I'm like, oh, I'm just feeling a little rejected because I didn't.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting to write an emotion out, and see where it takes you, like, and
the thoughts that create it.
Yeah, I noticed that last year. Like, I remember feeling ways of maybe guilt, or whether it be loss, or whatever that feeling might be that I'm suffering with, and then just writing it out, and for like a week, 2 weeks, not dwelling and dreading, and I'm not going to work, I'm not going to the gym, I'm not fucking eating food, actually doing my life, but just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then just knowing how your brain can cope with it and figure it all out until you finally get to a point of clarity is like, it's something that I don't think you can do if you're getting fucked up. I don't think you can do it.
Well, like, alcohol literally poisons your brain.
Yeah.
And that's something like now, not even like standing on a soapbox, like the more I learn what people are learning about alcohol, it's like, it's really not good for you.
Like, not even in your brain.
Yeah, not even it stuffs your sleep patterns. And I used to sit there and I used to drink and then be like, oh my God, like now I'm not sleeping and I'm waking up with anxiety, and it's like, and it just was this vicious cycle. And yeah, definitely like the clarity and everything that's come from it. But what were you saying?
Well, what I was going to say, which is, you just made me think of it, was like the crazy thing I've realized about drinking is it's like, and again, it's like I don't feel judgment towards drinking, but I actually kind of do, if I'm going to be completely honest, because lately, if my other mates who have been saying they're going to like be devoting themselves to not drinking and doing this instead, when they tell me they have, maybe I don't know if I'm judging them because they drank or if they went against their word. I'm going to leave that in my head for a while to think about it. But I think the craziest part about drinking, I realized, was like, you start drinking poison. It's literally poison.
Yeah.
Until you start to feel lightheaded because you've drank poison. You drink enough poison, you start to go dizzy.
Yeah.
Then you keep drinking the poison until your body makes you get rid of it.
Try and throw
vomit.
And I used to spew and then just keep drinking.
And then that's what you do. You keep drinking, and then eventually your body goes, bruh, enough's enough.
Yeah.
And it just shuts you off.
Yeah, it just shuts you out. You're like, you're done now, bro.
And
It's like the Seki like chucks in and just goes, we're out of here.
I think to myself, I can't believe we do that. That's crazy.
I know. And like, it's definitely, I definitely believe that it is all trauma based. And, you know, from my experience as well, when I started dealing with the experiences that I've been through, and then obviously there was that genetic kind of predisposition for me as well with my dad having the alcoholism, but I think he also carried some intergenerational trauma. And, you know, we can only parent as well as we were parented, and that's definitely something that I've had to reteach myself. When I got sober, my son was 18 months old, and he was basically the catalyst that started it, because I could see how my relationship with my father occurred throughout my life, and I literally sat there and realized like I wasn't being the best parent that I could be and the best mum. And I knew if I continued down that line, what would happen. Like, that story was already written out. Meeting your grandfather, like, you know, my stepdad, who's your grandfather, it's crazy. I've had two dads in my life, right? Both of them have PTSD, worked in pretty like hectic fields, used alcohol to compensate. One got sober, one didn't. And my real dad, I don't know the terms, but
birth,
you know,
my
birth dad, like, he committed suicide. And so it's like you get to a point where you go, well, You know,
that's the end game.
Yeah, you know exactly how your life's going to go. Your husband will probably leave you. Your kids will hate you. You will drink yourself into a stupor until you probably kill yourself, like, you know, because you
Or
have
others.
nothing. You just never know. And then it's like, I think that Graham coming into my life was just so important, like, and so, like I said, divine timing, because it made me realize that, oh, you mean I have a choice? Like, I don't have to live this way. And for him to experience, like, you know, war and all of this kind of stuff and be able to stop that and see how loving and caring and kind and beautiful he is to, like, my mum. Like, it's just the duality of her marriages is insane. Like, you know, and the duality of my father's have been insane.
Yeah.
And so I think that I probably would have quit drinking, I think, eventually, but I think that Graham coming into my life sped the process up a lot, because I was like, oh, wow, like, I've got a different way of life that I could live. And he was so supportive as well. The fact, like, I never could talk to my dad. We had no relationship. And the fact that I'd ring, like, Graham drunk and be like, hey, like, when did you know you had to quit? Like, you know, and he's like, well, honey, when I started asking myself these kinds of questions, you know.
Yeah.
And he was always supportive and telling me, like, whenever you go out, just, like, have a hot Milo, have another drink, do this, and giving me little pointers. And now I love our relationship because we'll go on holidays together and people are all drinking and getting silly, and we just sit there and we're like, yeah, we still win, but like,
mocktails,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Like,
how good's a mocktail bar?
When they're good, they're good. When they're not just like watered down juice. Some people need to lift their game, but
yeah, facts.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's definitely it's been for me as well. I guess it's been a nice example to set in stone. I don't even know if I knew Grandpa was sober until like a year ago. I didn't even know my whole life. I had no idea. Maybe I'm just oblivious. That's what I obviously am, but I'm so self-centered.
Yeah. So, well, I think he got sober in '84, so well before your time anyway. So you've only ever known him.
Yeah, I just didn't know. I just didn't pay attention.
To it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. It's a mad example, you know. And yeah, as you said, like going through the army and being amongst that culture, making the decision. It shows that it can be done. Anyone can do it.
Oh, 100%. Like, you know, so I think like when you have kids and you know, you want to be the best parent and the best version of yourself for them, because they won't do what you say. They will do what you do. And like that was something, and you can see it. Like now my kids are getting older and sometimes my kids will do something. I go, oh, shit. I was like, I need to stop doing that because they are really red with it, you know. And so, my main goal is that I don't want them to think that alcohol is just the thing to fall back on and, you know, cope with their pain. And even through, like, there'll be times where I'll, like, you know, run into the bedroom and I'll start crying. Like, I'll have a moment and I go, oh, God, I got to go cry. And, you know, they'll come in and they're so beautiful and they'll just, like, go, Mum, breathe with me. Like, teach them the breathing thing and they go, breathe in, breathe out. Like, you know, and my daughter will rub my back and I just go, there's parts of me that go, should I let them see me cry? And I'm like, yeah, I'm human. Like, I'm a human being and I'm experiencing great pain, and I want to show them that showing emotions is the right thing to do, because believe me, I've seen people bottle it and I've bottled it myself, and you can only run for so long until it catches up to you. Like,
facts. And then when you get there and you turn, I had this guy come on, Mick, he told me you can run and to be honest, this guy, Mick, fuck, I think about this all the time. He was 6'3", yadded up, like all over. He was in jail for, I don't know how long he said, and I can't remember now, 20 plus years. It was something crazy. He only just got out like this year. Like, it was crazy. He came on and he was telling me, mate, you can run from yourself. You can run and run and run, but you get to the end, you turn around. And he looked me in the eyes and goes, and you're right there. I was like, don't tell me that,
That is so... No, but it's so true. Like, I think that we all have our inherent, like, soul and spirit inside of us, and shit happens to you. And we cover up and we layer because of how we're told to as children, or like the society expectations or what we think and the emotions that we carry. And eventually there gets a point where it comes out. And like, I am fully a believer like that if you do not look after, like if your mind, body or spirit, if something is not in alignment, then something will be out of whack. And people that get disease, like I don't want to go too woo-woo wacky, but like I believe that if your mind and spirit are out of alignment, your body starts to pay the price. And that's where people get diseases and will suffer. And there's been a lot of research about that being quite like somatic stuff. And in my case, it's true too. Like now being aware of my body, like I started doing yoga and I do yin yoga, which is like holding poses for a few minutes at a time. There will be certain places that once they start stretching, certain thoughts and emotions will start to pop into my head. And I just go, holy fuck, man. Like it's like my body is literally storing that thought or event or something like that. I can tell if I'm stressed because like, you know, my shoulders will start to go.
And that's the best one for me.
The jaw clenching. And it's like I'm not telling people something I want to say. I'm not. And I lived in chronic stress for so long. And that's where after the pandemic, my chronic stress was like starting to physically take me out. I remember saying to mum, like, I think I'm dying. Like, I think I have a brain tumor. And she was like, you're not dying. And I'm just like, no, bro. Like, my body is falling apart. I can't sleep. I'm not eating properly. I fucking forget everything I can't. And she went, Rachel, you're stressed. And I'm like, no. What does mum know? Mum knows everything, of course. And so I went home and Googled it and it was like chronic stress, every single symptom I had. And I went, holy shit. And then you see what chronic stress does to your body. And I was like, oh my God, I am slowly killing myself. And and that really is what started all of this change. And it was like trying to fix my body physically, but really doing the spiritual and the emotional work has been where it's been at. Like, you know, I suffered with like obesity most of my life, and the more I cry, I swear the skinnier I get. Like it's like, you know, I feel like that was such a protective mechanism, and like not only like having an eating disorder, like binge eating and just trying to feel full and satiated, and now it's like I'm full as I am, like you know. And it's like in my own experience, the more in touch with myself that I've become and tried to balance all of these things, everything just works itself out.
It's crazy that the body and the mind are honestly one system. Like this guy, Alexander Robert Burrow, came on. He's I don't know how I'll describe him. He runs breathwork classes is the easiest way to describe him. But in his line of field, he also does a lot of yoga practice, and I think it's called Ki energy or something, Chi or something like that.
And the Chi, yeah. Like Chi, it's like Chinese energy.
Yeah, I think it might have been Japanese or whatever it was. Anyway, he I'm going to go do a video with him soon actually, where he's going to run me through. I'm going to do a bit of a vlog where he's going to run me through one of his guided sessions.
Yeah.
But yeah, he came on and he did some things with me where he was like, and this is the extreme version of what we're talking about, but he was like running his hands, closed my eyes, and he was like doing these things, and he's saying, oh, I can tell you're thinking this and feeling this, and why did this happen? And I'm thinking, stop. This is insane.
Yeah.
But then he'll say, bro, I can have people come do my sessions and I put them in poses and they're doing this yoga pose, and before I know it, this guy will break down crying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? How? No. I even said to him, how could that make sense?
Yeah.
How could a stretch make me visit this memory?
Yeah.
And he's like, bro, trust me. And I started to understand what he was talking about the more we talked about it. And then towards the end, when we did our little session post-podcast, I'm like, I think he might be onto something, you know?
100%. And it's like, it's been known for that. Like, you know, and I don't say like I'm woo-woo because that's how I was born and raised. Like I was born and raised like, you know, like I said, no religious background, Western medicine ruled all, you know, and up until probably like 4 years ago, like I was science-based, like I was skeptical about everything that couldn't be studied. But now the science is catching up to a lot of the Eastern philosophies and healthing modalities that they have known forever. And so, you know, and then I kind of in my own experiences, like I've suffered from an autoimmune disease since I was 12 years old. It's like, how do 12-year-olds get autoimmune diseases? Because my environment and my mind, body and spirit were completely out of whack. My environment was fucked. And so it's like my body started attacking itself, like, and that's what it is. And so in my experience, the obesity started when I was a child as well. And it's like, did I love sugar and eat too many cakes? Absolutely. But why was I doing it to excess, you know, when nobody else was? And then it just continued. And so like I've seen specialists for both kind of situations in my health. And unfortunately, they ended up doing a lot more damage than good in dealing with the situations. And so in dealing with my chronic stress situation and trying to get better, I've actually healed a lot of it myself. And it's just through doing lifestyle medicine and more natural modalities and like making sure what I put in my body is like good stuff. Like I gotta have balance.
You gotta have
donuts.
You gotta have
life.
a Freddo.
Yeah. Donuts is life, bro. But but yeah, like in moving my body, like strength training, I think is just like
it's so crazy.
It's
like
so good.
It feels so good to push your body and do shit for your mental health.
Yeah.
And I've heard people say that for so many years online. I just hear it like it's words and I think, shut up.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? No, it's the same thing. Because I've always been the same. Like, and I heard what you were saying before when you grew up and you felt like you deeped everything and you were like analyzing and wondering why and for a lot of questions. And I've always been like that too. Like, I'll be having a conversation with one person and in my head, I'll just pretend, even not pretend, but I'll think, am I having this same conversation with this person that I'm having? And is this continue on from this person's message to me? And was this designed for me? Or I'll just go nuts. I'll let my brain go wherever.
Oh, I love like signs and synchronicities too. And like, that's what I mean. The more I slow down and just watch the universe and like listen to it, it's really interesting because like crazy stuff happens.
All the time.
Like I had a dream. Like, oh, this was crazy. So, like, I had a lucid dream. So, I think that I do have some sort of, like, intuitive stuff or, like, maybe psychic spectrum. But, like, because I remember when my mother-in-law passed and I was one of the only people that wasn't there when she passed. And I had, like, a visitation dream where she came and it was fucking, like, it felt real. And I woke up, like, losing my mind crying. Like, and I'd never experienced that before in my life. It was crazy. But I had this dream more so recently and it was like a lucid dream and like my ex-husband was in it and he had these tattoos and I was like, what does that mean? Like they were numbers and I was like, what is that? And he said it's a Bible verse and it was like, it was so lucid, like it felt real and I knew that I was dreaming and I could control my reactions in the dream. And there was 2 like Bible verses that came up and I was like, okay, cool. Woke up, instantly journaled about the dream, got out my Bible and I was like looking through and one of them said...
Do you remember what the Bible verse is?
Yeah, it was...
I'd love to know.
Oh, I think it was Jeremiah 2:3 or 3... No, I think it was 3:2. And then there was 3:11 was in the dream. Like one of the tattoos of the numbers he had was like 3:11. And basically it talks about... so I'd never heard this word before and it was like... Israel and Judea will be punished for their idolatry. And I'm like, idolatry? What the fuck does that mean? Like, And so then I Google it and I'm like, idolatry, worshipping of a false god.
Yeah, worshipping the wrong thing,
Yeah, worshipping the wrong thing. And I'm thinking, what the fuck's that got to do with anything? And I'm like, oh no, is there actually a Christian God and he's mad at me? I'm like, and I'm like, shit, is that what the dream was about? But
you spent all day the day before reading about Buddhism. And
I'm like,
Jesus comes
maybe
in
I need to
and...
lock this in, man. I was, and I thought with my ex-husband in it and I'm like, what the fuck? And it was crazy because one of the verses was like Israel was his first wife or something. And I was like, well, we could get metaphorical here. Like maybe I'm reading into it too much. The next day, I was listening to a podcast. I think it was Rainn Wilson's podcast. He had a rabbi on. So never heard this word before, couldn't really make out, didn't make any sense. And this rabbi said, she brought it, she goes, there's idolatry. And I'm like, get the fuck out. Like I have never heard this word before in my life. I see it in a dream, and then now I'm hearing it. And she said, it actually means... So she's explaining what it means when I'm going, I have no idea. And she goes, it actually means when you hold value and concern for something that is not in your deepest values and aligned with your deepest values.
Yeah, I look at it like putting energy into the wrong thing. Yeah.
And so it was such a sign for me at the time too, because that's when I was really struggling with like letting go of my ex as well. And I was like, I get it. And that dream led me, and then that sign, and like I see that all the time, and there's things that can be like trail angels. If I hear something a couple of times from the same people, I'm like, oh shit, like I got to really pay attention here, you know, at what they're saying. And I do believe that it's like my guides coming through and saying like, yeah, bro, like you're good. Like, yeah.
I love it too. You know, it sucks for me too, but it's like, oh, I don't want to admit it, but it's like I feel like I used to have these experiences so much more when I was a addict for any substance. You know what I mean? Psychedelics or buds or alcohol or uppers, downers, whatever it was. I'd always have these revelations like, oh, this is a sign, this is a message, this is a meaning. Now it's like I'm just like, give me something.
Yeah. Well, you got to like, and I even get frustrated sometimes because I'll see like, you know, I'll see angel numbers or I'll see something and I go, oh, that's a sign. And then I'm like, nothing happens. And it's another boring day. And I go, am I just losing my fucking mind? Or like, you know, but then eventually something will, like, and it's the divine timing and learning to trust. Like I've never been patient. And I'm like, and I know that, you know, God is really testing me with that, like at the moment with stuff. But like I said, like I keep looking back in hindsight and I'm like, holy shit, every time he has delivered, you know, so it's all good.
This quote on the wall here, you do not realize now, but later you will understand. And that's like an iteration. Is that the word? Iteration? When they make it shorter.
Oh, yeah.
Iteration. I think that's the word.
Yeah.
But, of the full verse. And that's kind of what I'm trying to at the moment. Like I don't know now, I might not be getting any signs physically, but it's like later I'll get them, you know.
Yeah, there's a saying that I love and it's like life only makes sense in reverse.
Yeah. I like that.
So it's like you get to the end of your life and you're like, oh, I get it now. Like, you know, and even now I sit here and I just go, yeah, fuck, bro, when I was in it and none of it made sense, you know. But yeah.
Well, you know what's cool is like one of the reasons why I love having the podcast is because it's like I get to document these moments in history from not just everyone else to listen to, but for myself later as well. And yourself now that you have this one to listen to in 10 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
Your kids are going to grow up and listen to this.
Well, I was literally saying that to your mum on the ride here and I said, you know, like I'm peeking out and like, you know, I was getting there and just going, oh shit, it's getting closer. Like we're coming home and I'm going to do the pod and what the fuck, rah. But then I realized I was like, even if nobody watches this or finds me interesting or whatever it is, I love the fact that this is created and put on the internet and my kids have that.
This is it forever.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like if something was to happen to me that my kids or my family can come and experience this and see, like we've spoken about some pretty cool shit.
Yeah,
and I'm just like and got my views and my beliefs on things. And so, and seeing me as a person, like, you know, who I was as a person. So, yeah.
Well, I went to a funeral like the week before, maybe last Tuesday. So a friend of mine passed away on Christmas Eve. Rest in peace, my mate Aaron. We actually did a podcast together, episode 37, maybe something 27, something around that time. So it was early days.
Yeah.
And his mum and dad both reached out to me and partner and said like, we can't thank you enough for this episode. And it's like, I never ever expected or intended that to be any of it. Like I do this for me and me only. I'm like, I'm selfish in a way where I'm like, especially in the beginning, I was saying to every person I know, if you don't do this, you're not my friend.
Yeah.
And people give me a gift of doing the episode, but his family have watched it and they said they watched it for like 10 days on repeat.
Yeah.
It's like 2.5 hours worth of conversation.
And see, I look at something like that and I think what a blessing that you chose to do this. So like, could that be your purpose right there? Do you know that?
It has to be. It has to be.
Like if you never chose
only makes
to
sense
do
in reverse,
this,
though.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like if you never chose to do this, that family wouldn't have, like you were being of service to those people and you created like something for them. So it's like, and that's what I mean. Like when you think, oh, like I need to go bigger, higher, faster, stronger, you know what I mean? It's like you got to think about those little moments. And even with my like running my business and I go, oh, you know, like I just groom people's dogs. And I'm like, but bro, like these dogs need it.
Yeah.
And so like when I feel insecure or maybe I'm not doing enough, I'm like, I'm being of service to my community with a skill that I'm good at. I am keeping dogs like welfare and comfortable and everything like that. I also work like one-on-one, very small. So like there's a lot of dogs that can't go to bigger salons and stress. And I'm like, and I have created this really safe space and bond for them. And so I get there and I'm like, maybe that's just it.
Yeah,
you know.
but also think about how much love you're putting in each house. Like the people would be able to see their dog, and yeah, they'd love their dog anyway. But if their dog wasn't as tidy, they might not have as much appreciation for how good the dog looked as opposed to how good dog made them feel. Yeah. And then everyone knows look good, feel good, look better. And then feel good, look better as well. So like you're contributing so much extra love into every household which you do the grooming for.
Yeah.
But also in saying that, like when I go back and listen to that podcast before of my friend, it was nice, and that quote you said, life in the makes sense in reverse, was good because when I listened to it, it was from 1.5 years, 2 years ago, right? So I got to hear everything I was talking about then and he was talking about.
Yeah.
And I did everything that I said I was going to do and wanted to do from that point moving forward. And I became the person. And then like a few weeks later, I'd have a person that came on that would like, I remember asking him a deep question. I was like, dude, I got to ask you this. Like, what did it feel like dating a girl that had a kid? I was like, that's so weird. No, I can't even imagine that. I had that, and he ran me through what that felt like. 6 months later, I started dating a girl that has a kid. And then it's like, if I go back and I watch things and listen to an episode from any point, I've been preparing for my next chapter in my own life, and I've recorded before, but I didn't do it intentionally. It's like the guests that will come on, it was the conversation I needed to have.
Yeah.
And it's like, I reckon this is happening to everyone all the time, everywhere, but no one realizes it.
No.
I only know because I don't remember any of these people saying this.
Yeah,
I have way too many hours of conversations.
Yeah.
But going back and listening to it, I'm like, wow, that person had to tell me that this is A plus B equals C, because when I inevitably got to C, I knew why. You know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It does. And it's like, it's all like, I fully believe that we're here on this planet to learn lessons. And I think there's some people that don't learn the lesson.
Yeah.
And we know these people everywhere. And that's the one where it's like life starts to really get hard and flog you when you don't learn the lesson. But yeah, I think it's all about that. And that's what I mean. Like there's trail angels that will give you the nuggets that you need, but it just might not make sense. And then eventually you go, holy fuck, like, you know, that thing happened, and now I understand why I had to hear that piece of information or experience that experience.
Yeah.
And so like I even get there and like looking at my marriage and going like, I could look at it and go, oh, like I'm a failure and it didn't work and all of this. And it's like, no, I learned so many lessons of like what love is, what love isn't, and also that a healthy relationship takes more than love. And I never knew that, because growing up I never had healthy relationships really around me, and it wasn't really a wisdom that like was spoken to. And now I look and I go, oh, like you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that. And I'm like, oh no, I just thought like if I loved him and gave him a cuddle, like that's it.
That's
you know,
it.
Fuck. There's so many things like where I look back and I go, oh man, like if I went back and did things differently, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately,
you wouldn't have been able to. Like, it's impossible. I think that about myself too. No. I think if I had have handled this situation differently, would I have avoided this situation? It's like, but I couldn't have done that differently because I didn't know any better.
No, and there's like one of one of the guy like teachers, you know, just people, mentors, people that inspire me. There's a guy called Peter Crone, and I remember when I first started this kind of journey of making myself well again, and everything started physically, like, you know, the nutrition and the exercise and everything came first. And then I found this video on Instagram and this guy Peter Crone was in it. And I'll try and get this right because it fucking flogged my brain. Like I remember going back and like repeating this quote because I was like, what does that mean? When
double click.
And it's like, whatever has happened to you has happened and was meant to happen exactly the way that it was. Why? Because it did.
Ew. Yeah.
And I was just like, what do you mean? And so when I hear that, and like for somebody like me that has experienced a bit of trauma in their life and like some shitty things happening, to have to go back and look at that and go, it was supposed to happen to you. Now, why did it happen to you? And it's like, if I had grown up with a father, like, you know, my father with his alcoholism, and I always looked at it like a bad thing, but I'm like, if it wasn't so bad, would I have gotten to a point where I realized it was damaging my life because I could see the signs and the similarities? And so and like you said, it's like getting sober, I wish I'd done it sooner, but I wasn't meant to.
No.
Yeah. And
You
it's like,
couldn't have.
yeah, exactly. And so like I look at that every day as like everything is meant to happen exactly the way it's supposed to happen. I have no control over any of it. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and just having that acceptance. And it's like, yeah, I could potentially go back in time, like, you know, if I could and change things, but I've learnt the lessons. I don't think that even if like I tried as hard as I could with what I knew, and my marriage still didn't work.
Yeah,
so it's like
yeah.
there comes a point of defeat where it's like it just wasn't meant to be anymore. It was supposed to. And also it's like I try to tell myself now, like I don't know how much better things could get. And like we put such an emphasis on romantic love, and I was a girl that grew up in the Disney era, you know, where like Prince Charming was supposed to come in and save you and everything is supposed to be roses. And in a lot of, like I love this, Jay Shetty said it, it's romantic love is such a Western cultured thing that you find this one and they're supposed to make it. But when you look at any religious text, it's not even mentioned. There's wives and everything, but there's no mention of like this glory, you know, but there's things like friendship and mother-child, like, you know, parental-child and family bonding and mentors and all of this. And so I start to look at it and I go, okay, just because me and my husband didn't work out and we're definitely needing this kind of separation now from each other, I don't actually know if things could be better in a friendship term or something down the line, you know, and it could be worse. Fuck, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out. But like because I am love and like to look at like that way, like I hope that's something like our friendship can rekindle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, fuck, I wish my camera didn't die in that point because I had something I wanted to say so bad. Fucking bad. It was, and you know what's good? I can cut it and no one will even know that I'm fucking retarded either. No one will ever know.
Retarded. Yeah. So what? Like not knowing whether things will be better could be better.
I'm glad that, and to be honest, it's nice to be able to hear a refreshing opinion like yours because not everyone is as clear and lifeful when it comes to anything bad that can happen in their own life, you know. And as we were saying, like it's only what was that quote? It was that why did it happen the way it happened? Because it did.
Yeah.
Like I try and tell my mates that when they're going through, I got a couple at the moment, they're going through bad breakups too. Bad. Fuck. Oh my God. Honestly, I think about them every day. But I think to myself, like,
they need to cry and hug a pillow.
Yeah, they do.
In the fetal position.
Yeah.
On the floor makes it really dramatic. And if you can stare at yourself in a mirror, do that.
Oh my God. I'm glad I've got a woman's opinion on this.
That is my advice.
Because my opinion is the complete opposite. Train hard, work hard.
I'll do that too.
Yeah.
But make sure in the dead of night, you cry really hard.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think to myself, like, when they're going through it, like, because I have been through hard breakups myself.
Yeah.
And my mates are reaching out to me when they're going through them, you know what I mean? Like, even if I know they're doing them subconsciously, they might just go, hey, bro, a random message. When you get a hey, bro, you know some shit's up. Like, you're just like, the fuck, why aren't you sending me a random Instagram reel? Like, what's up with the real communication all of a sudden?
Yeah.
And I think it's because they know I've gone through it, so they're finding relatability in me. And I can't say this to them. I'll never be able to say it to them, but they don't understand that they're going to be so beneficial for someone else in a few years' time.
100%.
They're like, it's not like they had to go through it. Unfortunately, they did. But it's like now they get to reap the unintentional benefits of what it means to go through trauma because you can finally have empathy. Yeah. And you can't have empathy unless you know what it feels like. Empathy is the output for the input that was trauma.
Yeah, yeah. And like I think for your friends as well, it's like what's meant for you won't miss. And like that's really where I sit there and I go, oh, why didn't it work out? It's like, oh, it just wasn't meant for me. And there's bigger things. And like that's what I mean, like not running, like I'm not a fan of hookup culture and stuff like that. Like more power to you if you want to do it. And like definitely when I was younger, like had a bit of a touch, but a bit of a touch. Yeah. But you know, like it didn't do anything really beneficial for my soul in the long run. And so I think working on myself and experiencing the motions and realizing where I went wrong and taking accountability for my part in what I did and didn't do. Because there was definitely times I remember just getting there and like I could feel something was wrong. And I was like, I feel like I need to say something or do something. And there was definitely a point where I just went, no, don't. And I can't explain why. Like, it's like I probably should have communicated. I probably should have done the thing. But also I had done that a lot and it never really, So, but like I found that so interesting when I'd just be like, no, don't. And then everything came the way that it, kind of went. But I think that if you take stock and take time and learn the lessons, then you will be more beneficial for the next person. And like relationships are so important to me, especially like friendships. My friends have been incredible. And like your friends reaching out to you, I love that they can do that because connection. Like I will have a horrible day and I will ring one of my friends and then instantly I'm like, wow, that was awesome. Now I can crack on with it, But I think, relationships are just so super duper important to us as human beings, and we learn in every single one that we're in. I have witnessed people that have not sat and self-reflected and been self-aware, and not a lot of people have that skill to do it too. So I'm not judging, but when you don't take stock and you don't self-reflect on what you've been through, you repeat the same story with a different face.
Yeah, that's an important point. I never really think about that lens. Like my lens is always from a ego point too. Like I always think to myself, if I go through a heartbreak, especially if I'm the one occurring the heartbreak, not given the heartbreak, which I don't know which one is worse over my years. I'm pretty sure they're both just as bad. And in fact, I do find myself thinking about the people that I broke their heart more than the people that broke my heart.
Yeah, like, I feel being the dumper was a lot harder because
it's hard.
It's like you feel like you're not allowed to be upset or heartbroken because you made the choice. But it's like sometimes somebody has to be the mature one and go, hey, like it's not working. And I think in my case, it's like I'd seen so many relationships where nobody made the move at the time it was supposed to happen, and they ended up hating and resenting each other, and then the relationship was just unsalvageable. Yeah. And that was like I could never imagine hating my ex, and he's given me some reasons, but I've never wanted to border into that territory because he is the father of my kids and he means so much. Like what he has given me, it's 11 years versus a year of shit, and emotions run high, growing pains, all of that. So it's like you've got to kind of, give it with that. But
I think it from a sense, like I genuinely think this, and I don't know if this is like wrong to think or not, but whenever I'm going through heartbreak, I think to myself, I genuinely feel a lot of empathy for that person. And it's because I genuinely think, fuck, they fucked up. I think but if it's on the other end, like it's a bit different. But that's just like, this is just advice to, I guess, my mates at the moment. This is what I can't say it, but I feel it when I tell them, like, unfortunately, they messed up in their scenario, especially my mates' scenarios, because like my mates are going to become like, I know my mates are savages and killers. So I'm trying to tell them, like, you just gotta fucking work for it, dude. Just work for it, and it's like. That's the advice I give to them. But I guess when you have to break up with someone, it's like, in a way, you need to be that person to make that decision so they can become that person. You know what I mean? Like, it goes both ways.
Oh, 100%. Like, and one of the things that I've experienced over the last year is finding great comfort in discomfort. And it's like, sometimes certain things, like not even with my ex, with friends, and I see them going through something hard, and there's this like part of me that's like, I want to fix it. Like I want to go over and help them, and I can fix this for them, and I can do that. And then there's another part of me that steps back and goes, no, because sometimes we want to help people so bad, but it's those real bottom of the barrel moments that like, I sit there and it's like, when I was battling with my sobriety, like nobody pulled me out of bed and chucked me in a shower and said like, that's fucking it, man. Like you're done. It was me deciding that enough was enough. And then the growth came from that.
Yeah. True growth comes from being tired of your own shit.
Yeah. And it only comes from hard things. It's like you look at evolution. Evolution never would have happened if everything was fucking roses.
Yeah. When animals start running out of food, they evolve to eat better shit.
Yeah. And it's like, and plants and everything, it's like, oh, we can't get enough sunlight, right? Well, we'll go bigger, stronger, harder, like, you know, and they can fucking grow in some crazy places. But yeah, like there's that natural element. Like I always like to look back at nature and go, does this serve like some sort of metaphorical? But even in the religious text too, like I think that people take it also literally, like, oh, there was these people and this happened and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I like to look at it more as like guidelines.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's
my original point was like the Bible or any religious text is a collection of libraries of the greatest encounters any humans ever had and best explaining their own personal journeys with enlightenment, whatever it might be. And then we can find how that can apply ourselves to us. But now what I think it is, I think it's just a collection of human experience and you're just living one other person's human experience. And it's just, we're all living the same human experience. You're just listening to how that guy's situations, environments and circumstances made his experience feel for him. But you feel the same way from your exact same situations, just different metaphors.
And it's all like it resonates with different people differently, I guess. But
and I know what you mean when you say you like to look at nature to find like, can we look at that as answers to our own questions in a way? And it's because I think everything's the same thing. I think every fucking procedure, ideology, belief system, religion, person's experience, plant, fucking everything is the same thing happening in a different metaphor.
100%.
It's the same thing over and it's 100%. Just the same. Every song is every movie. Like we evolved with the earth, and so that's what I mean. Like when certain crazy things come up in life, and I go, does that happen in nature? And then I'm like, oh shit, it does. Okay, well then that's pretty natural response. Like, you know. But yeah, like and there is a lot of hardship in nature, like being a part of it. And, you know, going to Alaska and seeing like the Athabascans, like the Inuits up there, fuck, they survived and thrived in some of the most extreme temperatures, you know? And to see that, like, I don't think we give our Indigenous cultures enough credit. And honestly, like when I look at them, I just think that they ruled the fucking planet and they knew how to make it. And I love it. I love looking at their tribes. I think about that lately, I've been thinking how the fuck, because I was eating last night with my mate. We got a kebab box, mixed, just meat, no chips. A box of chicken and cheese from Mad Mex, beef and cheese from Mad Mex, and chorizo and cheese from Mad Mex, and we just combined all this meat.
I was like, who loves fucking cheese, bro?
We ate
a lot of cheese.
All the meat we could get in this shopping centre at once. One big just feast. And I remember thinking to myself, like, it's crazy we can just eat animal, all these different animals in one go. How the fuck did humans survive without the availability to just go to a shop and buy their food they need to buy? Like, people were just walking around. They might see an animal, they might not. You know, they might see a fucking berry tree, they might not. They weren't planting the berry trees. They were just like, here we go, I found one.
It's all opportunity. Like, do you know? Like, I remember seeing this thing on this documentary about the Native Americans. Is that still politically correct? It is on this one, Indigenous. But Native Americans in America, obviously, and like the bison there, and this fucking blew me. They would create these stone pillars right near a cliff edge, and they would kind of travel out like this. And instead of catching one bison, because they obviously have this tribe and this huge amount of people to feed, they would slowly make sounds and sneak up behind these pillars. And the bison also didn't move out because the pillars were there and it kind of encapsulated. And they would literally chase them until they got to the edge of the cliff. And they would just start falling. And like, because the herd mentality, they'd like spook them at one certain point and they'd all go, shit, and like just run. And so they would kill like 20, 30 bisons or whatever and just like for the whole tribe. Like, it's insane. And
they just figured it out. We just figured it out. And you know that, and to be honest, I want to use that to get to this point, because I think about sometimes the hardship that we have to go through as humans, whether it be emotional or situations or trauma, whatever it might be, right? And then the feeling of overcoming them and working on yourself and becoming a better person because of them. Like, it makes so much sense why we're able to do that, because we are literally the ancestors of the survivors, one after another.
Yeah.
From the point of sickness where we weeded out the famine, will just wipe, even famine.
Yeah.
Like, there's not enough food, only the best get to eat.
Yeah,
The sickness comes through, only the strongest survive.
Yeah.
Like, and this went on for wars and generations, hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
Until I was born. I'm the ancestor of the best of the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like I think that if people truly respected like just how incredibly lucky it is that you exist, bro, like when I started learning about like the universe and how it came into creation, and it's like, you're telling me a bunch of fucking space rock just started like orbiting in the same spots, and we had Earth, but hang on, it was filled with hot shit, so nobody could live on it. Oh wait, here comes like a giant collection of asteroids filled with fucking ice, like, oh, so now we have water. Oh, but then a giant comet hits in, oh boom, we have the moon, and it also tilted it a little bit, so we have the seasons. And it's like,
enough hydrogen, enough oxygen met to fucking create water.
Yeah. We got amoeba, we got this, and then we, like, if anything was off by the slightest meal, to think that if your parents could have gone to a different party or a different place, they never would have met.
Well, my parents met at a train station.
Yeah.
Because my dad missed the train.
That's what I mean.
My dad made the train, I wouldn't be born.
If I said to my mate, like, oh no, I don't want to rent a room off you, my kids wouldn't exist. Like, what the hell? And it's like, that's where I believe in divine timing, and everything's going to be fucking A-okay. And like, yeah, if you look at enough stories throughout history, it's like it is these like real split-second moments and these real little things that seem insignificant. And so like I feel really bad. You know, I have a lot of empathy and compassion for people that suffer through this life and can't find their purpose or can't see a way out and struggle with their mental health, because I'm like, I don't think you understand how incredible you are to even be here.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
Well, like, it sucks. We are getting towards the end of the episode, so we're going to take a bit of a sad turn before I bring it back. But it's like, I think the real reason why so many people are suffering and they can't get out of that feeling and they're stuck in ungratefulness to be alive is because 1 in 10 people, and this statistic fucks me up, I think about this all the time, 1 in 10 people have no one.
Yeah.
No one. Not a friend to call, not a parent to count on, not a fucking sibling to hug, no one. If 1 in 10 people have no one, that's way too high of a And I think that's the leading cause. And the opposite of addiction is community, you know?
Yeah,
so that just shows me that like you have to have people in your life. So like, to be honest, the more I learn about that, the more I'm like, we have to just be nice and to everyone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? 'Cause like, I swear to God, I might be the luckiest person in the world. I don't know if I could count how many friends I have.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a codependency thing, obviously. Once I pick someone up, they ain't going anywhere. but I also need that. I need that. I need to have people that I call all day and people that call me all day. Without it, I'll be lost. But yeah, 1 in 10 people having no one is like, that's the one thing that I think we should change as a planet, for sure.
Oh yeah, like, well, I think with the pandemic and like the rise of the internet and smartphones and everything, it's like we have more connection ability but less social connection in that way. But also I think with big social things as well, like shit has to hurt enough for people to want to make changes. And like, I love it now. I sit there and I think, you know, 5 years ago or even a couple of years ago, you know, like, internet dating was all it was. It was like, you got to go on Tinder and you got to do this and got to do that. And now there's places popping up where they have singles nights and speed dating back again, because people don't want to fucking go on apps and they want that real experience. So I think that when shit gets really bad, that's when stuff really gets moving. And so it is really sad, like, because the amount of people that came through and showed up for me through my separation, I don't know where I would be without them, you know. And I have such an amazing community of people, shout out to them, that have like just come around me and supported me and lifted me up. And I know, like, I have at least a handful of people that if I'm having something big go on, you know, like I call and they're just like, what's happening? You know, and they will always answer the phone and they will always chat to me. And I feel so upset that not everyone has that, you know, but I think it's all doable as well. Like, you know, there are definitely ways that you can work around that, but it does involve kind of putting yourself out there and being more self-aware. And like, again, with the smartphone stuff, it's like people of your generation or younger, they've never, like, when we went to our friend's house, we had to like knock on the door and talk to their parents and like, you know what I mean? And like there's been generations that have completely bypassed having to talk to people. Yeah. Like I can get food and I don't even have to see anybody. Like, you know, and that's crazy.
I think I'm the last generation to ever remember 98331. Probably going to beat that out, but that was my best mate's home phone.
Yeah,
I'd call and I'd say, hey, Mrs. Bossy, can I be speak to Ryan?
Yeah.
Guarantee there's not a generation.
You had to talk to adults and everything. And like, I even get there now and I go up to counters at like, you know, food shops and they don't even go, hi, how are you? Like they just stare at you. And I'm like, are you good to take my order? And I just go,
screens that way.
Yeah. But in doing that and having that breakdown in society, we are the best problem solvers on the planet, human beings, and we will create it. But yeah, like the fact that suicide rates are like the highest they've ever kind of been before, it definitely signifies a problem.
Yeah, it signifies a change needing to happen, which kind of is good because it means the pendulum's swinging back down in that direction. Which
I see a lot of men's groups now. Like men are joining up, like, you know, and I think that it's becoming a lot more acceptable for them to be emotional and be vulnerable because there's like, I think it's in yoga and I've heard it quite a lot. It's like to actually be strong is to be soft. And so in yoga, like yoga is quite a soft exercise. Like you're stretching, man, and you're doing funny poses, but you get incredibly strong from doing it. Like, and there's a lot of that saying in martial arts and all of this, like, you know, I think Bruce Lee is like, be like water, like rigid things don't bend and move with the, you know, and so I really focus on that and especially with men, like it's not horrible to be vulnerable. Like that's actually very attractive when you can own your shit and you can like say, oh yeah, like, you know, life got hard and this is how, and I freaking cried and did all this. It's like, cool, bro. Like I'd rather that than someone living totally in ego and bravado, just going like, oh, smash him. Like, you know, I don't fucking cry. Like, cause it's like, oh, you can smell it from a mile away. That it's just like, he needs a cuddle.
I have a funny relationship with it. Like it might just be situations that have caused me to think like this, but it's like, I'm happy to cry if I need to really badly for a minute, like maybe for like 10 seconds, like say for a funeral, I'll let some tears fall, but my lips can't move. It's like, I'll allow that. And even if I'm going through something really traumatic or, you know, that affects me a lot, I might have a quick little moment on my own. I ain't showing anyone that shit, eh?
Yeah, I don't really like, crying to me is quite personal. I will cry in front of people, like when I've been to funerals and everything like that, and I will cry on the phone to people. But when I really like to let it go, that's like definitely like, in my own space and feeling that. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would never tell anyone not to cry. I would never give that advice to anyone.
It's such a natural thing.
It's just so something that I just can't do, eh?
Yeah.
Can't do it.
And it's probably been like programmed into you to suck
I've done it.
Because I was the same. Like, and then that's where I drink and it would just explode out of me anyway at some point or another. But men definitely, I think that they've been told that they can't kind of. But yeah, like to me, the more I cry, the less painful it gets. Like I feel like every time it's just like my body relaxes a bit more. And then like a grief wave will come through and I'm like, oh, not this again. Yeah. And then it gets to the point and I go, oh, here comes the tears, and the crying doesn't last very long and then it's gone. Yeah. And then I'm like emotionally regulated.
Yeah, I guess it's like a nice little reset, in a way. Let it out.
Yeah.
I like that.
And like, you know, can I ask you, like with your mates, well, you're a pretty loving guy, but like how often do you call them and like, you know, say, I love you? Are you like
I'll tell my mates I love them every day. Yeah. I'd say every phone call. If I don't say I love you, I say love. I say love. Yeah. At the end of every phone call, I say love.
Yeah. And I love that. Like, I think with a lot of my girlfriends and stuff, like I said there, I was like, fuck. Like, I really love you. Like, you show up for me. I value you. Like, you know. And so now if I feel love for somebody, I don't stop it. Like, I just go, you know, I love you. Like, and it's not just love ya. Like, it's I love you. I'll talk to you later. Like, and they say it back and I'm like, oh, feels the heart, you know.
It's honestly a way different experience being a guy expressing love because of the love you have for a girl is so different for the love you have for a boy. So to
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
a
yeah.
mate, I love you, is so weird. Like I could tell my mum or my sister or my girlfriend or anyone like anyone that's a girl.
Yeah.
I could say it to a girl that works in my office because I
Yeah.
probably love her. You know? But it's like to a mate, it's a whole different feeling, and I
Yeah.
think that's why men don't say it. But we feel it, so we say love. You know what I mean? Like we feel the love we have for each other as opposed to loving someone. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's,
No, yeah, and it's very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And like I think because like men are taught that you only say that to females in your life, it's like it does feel a bit like I don't know.
And you know the weirdest part about it is too, like say as a guy, you can say to a mate, I love you.
Yeah.
You can. But there's not a fucking planet where he can say it back.
Yeah.
You can't say I love you too to a boy. Like
Yeah.
Bro, like I swear that's weird. That's weird.
I think it's cute. But I'm like old and don't give a fuck what people think. So.
But you don't want to hear it either as a boy. Like if you say
yeah.
I love you to a mate, you're just happy to leave it. If he says I love you too, you're like gay.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that, bro. Yeah.
But
It's like rule number 1, don't say it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, right. Unfortunately, we're going to have to get to the end of the episode, okay? I hate this point because honestly, I wish we could talk for 5, 10, 15 hours straight. But I can't let the podcast end without asking you the same question that I like to ask everyone at the end of every episode.
Ooh.
And it's good because we touched on a lot of it and it kind of came towards the end of the conversation as well. If someone reached out to you because they were feeling depressed, mostly because they were just lost, what advice would you give that person?
You know, I think that just being there for somebody and listening to them is like probably what I would do. But, you know, normally I think depression comes from a lot of living in the past. From my point of view, you know, you have anxiety, you live in the future. You have depression, you live in the past. And one kind of thing I like to see is like if God took something from you that you couldn't imagine losing, he will replace it with something you couldn't dreamed of having, you know. And I'm such a believer in baby steps. Just make it through that next 5 minutes, that next 10 minutes, and, you know, look after yourself while you do it. Like always go for a walk or call a friend. But I think most of the time I don't really have advice because it is so dependent on the person and what their situation is. But like definitely shut the fuck up. Have a listen, see, because you will hear more of what they're trying to tell you and what kind of their point is, and just let them know that you're always there and it will get better. And I love checking in with people.
Yeah.
A bit
That's a great answer because that's something that's so important for someone to understand, to be a listener, because as soon as anyone tells me anything, I'm trying to fucking fix a solution. Yeah. I'm a problem solver. It's my job. I fix things that are broken.
You want the quotes, you want the advice, you want the stuff. Like I'll give it to you, but it's like I literally shut the fuck up and I go, oh my God. Like she didn't say it in words, but I'm like, I know what she's saying and I know where that pain's kind of coming from. So yeah, like if you just be quiet, you hear a lot more, like, and then you can kind of attack it at the right thing. Yeah.
And then to be honest, you might be able to say a lot by not saying anything because you might let them get their own answer, I guess.
Yeah. And like advice is really tricky too because like it kind of absolves us from responsibility. Like we can kind of sit there and say, well, you've got to do this and like you've got to do that. But then if they don't, like then they might feel hard done by. And so like I think when it comes to cases of depression or people going through something, and definitely in my point of view, like just listen, just be there, like sit in silence with each other if you have to, but just know that they're there. And like I love it when my mates like check in on me and I check in on them like the next day and just make sure they're floating.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's something I need to start practicing more. I guess when I've been having these conversations with people lately who have been reaching out for something, I'm like trying to, dude, you got to do this, you got to do that, and it's like,
seriously, be curious and listen. Like I'm telling you, because like I said, I used to be exactly the same and there's so much that I miss. And like even I have some people in my life that don't listen that much and I still like love and appreciate because I know they're trying to help, but there's sometimes I'll ring them and they'll just be like, well, you got to do this, blah, 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 blah. I was like, oh, damn, they're not even listening to what I'm actually saying. You know, they're just wanting me to be happy. But I think experiencing and going through stuff is the only way that you're going to move past it. And so that it's a lot more passive then like
time will heal it. Time will heal it.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Love it. Good answer. Good conversation. Good podcast, Rach. Honestly, I can't wait to another one in the future.
I know.
All right. You're a bit nervous when you started. How'd you feel towards the end?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah,
fine.
goes away.
I actually didn't feel that nervous as like I knew there was a bit. I was like, oh, I can feel it in here, and I know I'm a bit.
I could
shaky.
tell. To be honest, today I could tell today.
Oh yeah. But I
I've
knew
gotten
I
pretty
wanted
good
to
at
get
noticing
into-
nerves doing this. Yeah.
And then it just started like it's just a chat.
Yeah, it's fun.
Anyway.
I love it. I couldn't thank you enough. It's been an amazing
thank
conversation.
you.
And then
I couldn't imagine having my first podcast with family, bro.
Yeah.
How good's that?
yeah, it's been cool. But we'll do another one in the future, okay? I love to have people come back on again. Every 10 episodes, I have someone come and host the podcast for the week.
Shit,
so I've booked out the next couple, but if you'd love to do that one in the future one day, that'd be awesome.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, as I said, thank you, Rach. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for everyone listening, thank you. I almost forgot. Thank you for making it to the episode as well. It was an amazing week this week. There'll be another one next week. That's a wrap.
Yeah, I won't start. I ain't tripping, I'm a stein.